Hey everybody, welcome. Crimson Vow is not out yet on Arena, so we were thinking about what to do today. We could play some stale Midnight Hunt or whatever random assortment of trinkets that Wizards tries to throw in front of us at the tail end of a set when all we want to do is play the next one. So I was like, what about some mock draft? We did that before. It seemed to work really well. And then I was also like, what about a mock draft with somebody? And I reached out to my friend and former colleague, Alexis Janson, winner of the first Great Designer Search. She turned a 6-month internship at Wizards of the Coast as a prize into a extensive career there. She's no longer at Wizards like me, but she's one of the most potent, right brain, left brain people I know. Her design chops and her engineering chops are both stellar, and you just don't get a lot of people with that kind of combo creativity and like hard logical intellect. And she's excellent to talk to about Magic and design and cards. She's a fantastic limited player. So happy to have her here. Let's hop over to the left monitor and say hello to Alexis Janson. Hello, Alexis. Welcome. Oh, and of course, it didn't work. Wait a second. Wait. Oh no, did it not save? After all that sweet intro? Hold on a second, Alexis. You could actually unmute and start talking, but I need to figure out how to get you into the scene because all the careful work I did.
Great. Can you at least hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Let's see if chat can hear you, but I want to go... Okay, good. Wait, I just hit the wrong button. Whew! Oh, I thought I had lost all that setup work. I fumbled the the handoff there, but we got you. You're visible, audible, and we got there. Whew! All right. I was scared there. It was like going into tech support mode on stream is like my least favorite thing to do. But welcome.
That's fine. It was a good way to kind of like finish that intro where you basically hyped me up ridiculously, and now we had a little bit of
Right. Well, now it's even easier for you to overcome. Like you just have to meet the bar of that failed transition instead of that hyped up intro. But no, you meet that bar. Welcome.
I'm not here to talk about failed transitions. We're here for Magic. So
there you go. Hold on, I'm going to do this, and let's see. Okay, we got a couple people in here. If we want to gather up some friends to draft with here, please do. I'm going to set this to no timer. 0 is no timer. There we go. We got Innistrad Crimson Vow draft. Great. So anyway, back to the plan here. I've been wanting to talk design and Magic with Alexis for a while, and figured this would be a nice place to do it. We're going to do a draft, but it's not the result of the draft is not the important thing here. We're not going to play this deck, and of course we want to treat it real and make real picks and everything. But really, this is just a way to jump off into discussing the new set and what we're seeing in the mechanics and everything. So. Oh, I do? Well, let's fix that. I thought, how do you spell your last name, Alexis? Did I get that wrong? I'm very sorry.
That's fine. I'm so used to it.
No, well, that's unacceptable. Thank you for letting me know. Let's fix it. O-N.
O-N.
Apologies, friend. Well, you know how it goes. Look, email at work auto-populates. I just had to do the Alexis part. And then thank you for that, though. Okay, looks like we got some folks here. So awesome. So we're really just going to dive in and start drafting. And I don't know how much have you researched? What's your education on this set, Alexis? I'm pretty low. I've listened to half to about half of the common uncommon LR set review. That's about it.
Okay, I mean that's a very different approach. I just I scanned through all the commons and uncommons to kind of get a feel for what's going on in the set. I already have some opinions about the commons, so we'll see how it goes.
Great, somebody's prepared is what you're saying. Excellent. See, I know what I'm doing, bringing you on. All right, let's go ahead and fire this. It's funny, I never do this. Like It's always Hat that's firing off the draft. But here we go. Let's see here. Let's do this. That at least gets everything on screen. All right. Crack a Pack usually goes common to rare, but when you got them right in front of you, you're just going to do like every player does and want to look at the rare first. Looks like we got a dual land, which is kind of never your pick out of a pack if you're trying to win Magic games in limited, unless it's like Cube. Ancient Lumberknot. I don't like starting gold, but 2 black-green for a 1/4 Tree Folk. Each creature you control with toughness greater than its power assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. I heard LR started with a Signpost uncommon, so I heard them talk about this one, and they were pretty skeptical that this deck would play out. I don't know why. Like, are the tools there or not? I have no idea, but certainly. I think it's a neat design improvement that it looks at toughness greater than power, because the big feel bad of the Doran mechanic was like, well, okay, yeah, I got all these 2/4s that I'm turning into 4/4s, but I can't play any 3/1s because they become 1/1s. So I like that it fixes that. That's a little. I love little improvements in design over the years, right? Like that the game is never done. Always little tweaks. Yeah, you got a 113 to work with there. So I don't know. It feels like if the tools are strong, this could be fine. But I don't know about the tools. What do you think of that one?
Yeah, I definitely. While I was going through the commons, I noticed that the aggressive creatures outside of red and green were actually pretty weak, and that there was a lot of high toughness stuff. So I was already thinking maybe there's a toughness theme going on here. So I think the tools are there, but I think the thing I liked the best is there's a black uncommon that lets you like throw high toughness creatures at your opponent's face.
Yes, I heard of them talk about that one. It was like reminding me of the witch from Eldraine, except full on toughness.
Yeah, and I suspect that that's probably more important than this uncommon, but this uncommon's probably still pretty important.
Yeah, right. But that's also the one you mentioned is what makes me think, sure, that could work. I mean, that's a good build around if you're checking for 13 points of damage for that one card or whatever. Although, playing weak cards because they become good with other cards is suspect. Anyway, but next is Oakshade Stalker, 2 and a green for a 3/3 werewolf. You may cast the spell as though it had flash if you pay 2 more to cast it. So 5 mana flash. But that's interesting in that it lets you really control day-night in the sense of, well, I want to play it on my turn to, or I can flash it in. Although, of course, the common from the last set did that without the 5 mana. Moonlit Ambusher, Nightbound, 6/3. This feels like it just has all the problems of werewolves. Like it's.
Yeah, it's. I really like the idea. There's a couple different cards in this set that do that trick of letting you like control day and night by like playing it on your opponent's turn. But like the payoff on this one's a 6/3 rather than a 3/3, which is basically nothing, right?
It seems like I'm not going to play this, or I'm not. You're not fooling me this time, Wizards. I'm not falling for big dumb red green ground beef in this set until you show until it beats me.
That was the thing that made me not great about all like the 6/3 just hits that 113 down in the bottom, right? Like I know that's we're talking about specifics, but like there's so much high toughness in this set that I'm skeptical of the non-flying, non-evasion attack decks in this set.
And that was going to be another comment about the this toughness matters. The color pairs are not particularly flyer defensive. I mean, of course, I'm just saying, keep out. What's your plan against flyers? If you do end up in this deck, make sure you have a plan to not lose to flyers, because the ground seems like it's going to be clogged up almost just because of the nature of the cards you're playing, but the air is a question mark there. Reclusive Taxidermist, 1 and a green for a 1/2 Human Druid. It gets +3/+2 as long as there are 4 or more creature cards in your graveyard. Tap to add 1 mana of any color.
Yeah.
I like this a lot.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Werebear. It's one of my favorite cards. And this is basically the same card from my perspective.
Yeah, that's a very good point. For those of you, we can do a Werebear call out here. For those of you who don't know this old classic, very, very similar. Yep. It's not a strict side. It's not, but it seems better, right? Because it taps for any color. It has 2 toughness instead of 1, so it's not getting picked off very easily. And then the question mark is it easier to get 4 creature cards in your yard or 7 any card in your yard? Probably pretty similar. So I think with the ability that this has to splash puts it over the top as better than an upgrade from the Werebear days. And it's uncommon, so there you go. Although looking at rarity from 2000 compared to now just doesn't even matter. It's like not even the same game that way. So that's my front runner right now. I'm taking that out of the stuff we've read so far. Weary Prisoner, another werewolf maybe? Yep. 3 in a red common for a 2/6 defender that flips into a 6/6 that must attack. What garbage. Well, I guess, because last set was the werewolf set, so now they're going to get worse, right?
That actually kind of makes a little bit of sense. I hadn't thought about it that way.
Which is unfortunate though, because they were not good last time.
I think it's hilarious because we're outside of the black-green color pair and we're still getting high toughness creatures, which just tells you how clogged up the format's going to be.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Totally. This is when you put toughness matters in and other stuff also have high toughness. Seems like evasion and ground stall breakers are going to be pretty important. Massive might, some sort of pump spell. If the game lasts for another few hundred years, they're going to have to invent a new language, or they're just going to be like, look, sometimes we use the same name. Because in 100 years, we're going to have Massive Mighty Might is the name of the new pump spell. Instant, target creature gets +2/+2, gains trampled till end of turn. Hard to believe that card didn't exist before, right?
Yeah.
It's a nice, simple design.
And a keyword at this point. There's
right.
Only
Yeah, usually you make giant growths new now by adding this current set keyword, right? That's just the classic. Okay, it's giant growth, but it does the thing, right? This is just a nice, simple, actual giant growth. And it is kind of funny because it is just this Taco Bell menu pump spell, though, right? It's just like, well, we need to recombine some words about growth and some power and toughness, and so anyway.
That's set design for you. Go make your giant growth, your shatter, your disenchant, your panic attack, or your whatever your threaten. It's really easy.
Yeah.
Set design.
Certain amounts of it are right, but also those restrictions and those slots that are just automatically given to certain card types are actually what make you not have a lot of room. I think people underestimate and don't understand how constrained you are at every step of making a Magic set, where it's like, why didn't they put that at rare? It's so easy to say, right? Well, because then I have to dislodge a rare and I have to do move that, and then the color balance, just everything, because everything has to be perfectly color balanced and everything.
Well, they don't do the color balance quite as much anymore. They're not quite as concerned about that at higher rarities. But if you ever want to see a set design with no room to wiggle anything in any direction, go look at Dragon's Maze. That was fun. It's like every card is either a cycle or serving some other important purpose that it had to fulfill, and it just shows you how painful it is if you think about it, like, what could I do with this set? It's like, well, you really can't move anything. Yeah,
it's like you can change. Here's these things set in stone, and you can adjust the paint on them. But that's it. You get to paint these stone things, and it's a tough ask, and a really high bar. And on that front, Alexis was lead designer on Dragon's Maze, and it led to one of my all-time favorite Magic jokes, which was your tweet in response to the challenge to ruin a Magic date in 4 words. And yours was, I designed Dragon's Maze, which I think is unfair because, maybe that set isn't looked back on as like a value set in terms of dollars, right? Like there's not a lot of cards in there that are worth money, but did that do the job of somehow tying together that the madness of saying, take these 2 pillars of 2 already jam-packed sets, large sets, and make a third small set that pays that goes back and does all the things from the it was such an ask. So anyway, I want to, in defense of Dragon's Maze, basically, I had fun drafting that set, and I don't think people understand what a challenge they threw at you with that one. the constraints on that set were crazy.
I actually have a couple people who also worked at Wizards who thought it was a conspiracy to give me the hardest set possible so I'd stop asking to be on sets.
There you go. That could be just dissuade you. Like, fine, here you go. Take this one.
The thing they don't understand is because I'm also an engineer, I just saw it as a bigger challenge. Like, I loved it. It was great.
I love it too that was your approach, and you had Zach on development lead, right? Yeah,
I think that sounds right.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll move on to this picks here, but Dragon's Maze, what a challenge. Repository Scob, 3 and a blue for a 3/3 with Exploit. Speaking of dragons, not Dragon's Maze, but Dragons of Tarkir was the debut of Exploit. That was a Tom Lapilli set. And when Repository Scab exploits a creature, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. Oh, that's suggesting the classic spells theme in blue, probably blue-red.
Yep.
Exploit. This is where these days I just assume that it's going to be well supported. You know, Wizards ain't dumb. If they're putting exploit in a set, there's going to be a bunch of juicy, cheap, expendable creatures that die for value. Or if there's not, I have complaints. I'd like to speak to the manager. So it's powerful, and it's the kind of power I like because it's so build around, right? It feels powerful and synergistic, and I love that.
So on my review, I was actively looking for fodder because we don't have the 2/2 tokens anymore in this set.
Mm-hmm.
And they're there, but it's not quite as deep as you might hope it would be in my first pass. I was pretty disappointed with the number of things that I actively would want to exploit. There's like you've got your 1/1 that becomes a 2/2, the one from Khans Tarkir block got reprinted.
Mm-hmm.
There's like one or two ones that do similar things when they die, and it kind of dries up.
That's about it.
That. The weirdest thing is I think that this card is a trap because the red-blue theme is non-creature spells matter, and then the red-black is your exploit. So like, it's kind of crossing the streams a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it works fine. I mean, it's a hill giant worst case scenario, which is not great, but it's not the worst thing you could have. So
yeah, talk about a vanilla test that has fallen over the years. The hill giant used to be fine. All right, you're not happy, but you can do it. Now it's just a disaster to run a naked hill giant doing nothing else. But obviously that has some potential. We'll see. So yeah, it's whenever you're looking at a new Magic set, you can see the synergy cards, and then it's just a question of whether the tools are there. I mean, you can know somewhat from a glance over, but ultimately playing tells you everything. Toxic Scorpion is 1 and a green for a 1/1 Death Touch, and when it enters the battlefield, another target creature you control gains Death Touch until end of turn. Temporary Death Touch on your turn isn't that exciting to me. It's going to make something unappealing to block for 1 turn, but mainly Death Touch is ground defense, and on that front, a 1/1 Death Touch for 2 isn't the worst, but I kind of expect to pay 1. So this seems a little overpriced to me, but you'll run it if you need to control the ground. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm just super not thrilled with this card. I mean, like 1 mana 1/1 Death Touch is kind of the classic, and I think part of the reason that makes that card good is you can do it on turn 1 when you don't really have any better plays.
Exactly.
And being 2 mana is such a huge difference.
That being said, if there's good punch cards in green, if there's a lot of if you just end up with 3 this creature deals damage to other creature, then kind of any Death Touch starts to go up for me then.
The other thing to keep in mind is that this card combos relatively well with Trample as well as Menace, and there's several Menace creatures in this set, and also, I don't remember how much Trample there was, but there's some other uses that this does that you might not necessarily think of at first glance.
Okay, cool.
Still don't like it.
Yeah. How about Undying Malice? An instant for a single black until end of turn. Target creature gains. When this creature dies, return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control with a +1/+1 counter on it. Very narrow, but very powerful when you pull it off. One of my pet cards from the Forgotten Realms set was the thing that basically did this. What else did it do? Is this just functional reprint? No, it's not. or is it?
There's been so many versions of this card recently.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes the creature gets bigger up front and then comes back. Sometimes it comes back with a count. I don't think we've ever seen the comeback with the counter thing.
Yeah, maybe not. But like, I mean, in Forgotten Realms, with the version of this card, you could do things like save your ETB, deal 4 damage dragon, have it come back and deal another 4. Anyway, if you have great creatures to protect, it's not that expensive. I love the 1 mana. Like, the difference between 1 and 2 mana on a card like this is huge for me, because you can often find a spot to leave a single black up, but it's so much harder to leave up 2 mana for an effect like this. But I think these are sneakily good, but you're not a high priority. But if you get them late, you can toss them in your deck if you've got good creatures to protect, especially with ETB triggers. If you've got ETB triggers, I'm very happy to run one of these.
Yeah, this also goes up a little bit because of exploit. I mean, you don't really want to use this just for its exploit, but like there'll be times where you want to exploit something anyways, and this gives you a bit of extra value.
Yeah, you could be in some spot where it's like, look, I really need both the exploit trigger and I need that creature, though. The creature's too good to just give up, so this would allow you to get both.
Yeah, I do agree with the takes on 1 mana spells. I feel like I failed a draft if I don't have at least a couple 1 mana spells in it somewhere.
Yeah, to fill those corners. Alchemist Retrieval, does that fit the bill? Probably not. I've looked at this one. I want your opinion on this too, because it's a little shark jumpy to me here, Alexis. A little shark jumpy. I mean, Alchemist Retrieval.
I don't see any sharks in the art.
For a single blue mana, you can return target non-land permanent you control to its owner's hand. But hey, that's a weird rules text. It's got square brackets in it. What a weird thing to see on a Magic card. What does that mean? Oh, cleave 1 and a blue. You may cast this spell for its cleave cost. If you do, remove the words in square brackets. Square brackets are now part of Magic rules, Alexis. How do you feel about that?
Yes. They needed a really weird, honestly, I feel like this is the logical conclusion of, like, they've done everything they can think of with frames and with art and with alternate treatments and with IP. We've got Stranger Things and dinosaurs, and like everything is just, everything's in scope now. So they're like, what haven't we messed with? Okay, well, let's do everything Silver Border did now too in regular Magic cards too. Why not? I don't know.
Silver Border has always been just a let's see what is palatable enough to turn into Black Bordered later, right? But I can be such a cranky old Magic man, such a cranky old Magic boomer, and this is the type of thing to totally bring that out of me. But whatever, the game survives the clunk. The game introduces some clunk here and there for a set, and you're like, that's kind of clunky, and you're like, yeah, we ran out of time and just said that's good enough, and then we started working on the next set. The next set's coming.
So many things I hate about this mechanic conceptually as a designer. Just like, one, the name, like cleave, really? That's the name you came up with? Like,
because you're cleaving words out of this text. Get it? Cleaving words. No. But yes, you're right.
It sounds like a combat mechanic.
That's a great. I haven't mentioned that on stream yet, but bingo. That is so. It's not a good name for that. It's a little on the nose, but a little wrong. A little on the. There's another on the nose. It could be that it's not, which throws it all off.
Yeah, and then you've got these brackets. Suddenly you've got this weird punctuation, and like it's so hard to parse. As like the only way to know what these cards do is to memorize both halves to the point where you don't have to read the text.
Right.
Otherwise, you're going to screw them up so often. You're going to cast it for one and think you got the other, or you're going to pick it thinking it does one thing and it does the other. And
I haven't even seen an example of it yet, but Marshall was saying that there's cleave cards with 2 sets of square brackets. Oh my god!
Might 3, but
that is not good, Wizards. I'm going to give you a D- on this mechanic, especially because it's so executable in other ways. You don't need to do it this way. It's
just kicker. It's just
kicker. So if you're gonna do a kicker variant, why do the clunk? Why like? Okay,
in their defense, there's only a single card with more than one cleave bracket thing, and it's a rare.
Okay, so they kept their they contained themselves a little bit. Well,
I only took us to 11, not 12.
Magic can survive any dumb mechanic for a dang set, but I think it's a dumb mechanic, and I don't think they should have introduced square brackets as a concept to Magic rules. That's just like, if like Fireball is secretly teaching your kids algebra, is Cleave secretly teaching people coding or something? Like, what is this?
After level up cards and story adventure cards, and there's probably one or two more examples I'm not thinking of. Why did they just go with square brackets? Why didn't they at least like color it slightly differently, like put
that's a good point, like
put a fancy thing around it, or like
they're so into like treatments on frames and stuff, although maybe it's because it's text and it's like it's one thing to do a cool frame, but how do you do cool text? I mean, I guess you could color, like you said, make it colored or something. I don't know. Well, we're not picking it. I certainly don't want to first pick cancel or what. This isn't the cancel. There's a cancel one though, right? This is the unsummon. Yeah, we're not going to take the unsummon for 2. Serpentine Ambush, 1 and a blue for an instant. Until end of turn, target creature becomes a blue serpent with base power and toughness 5/5. So effectively a blue giant growth. For the most part, right? I mean, if you do it on a 2/2, it's like literally a giant growth, and
and there's a lot of +1/+1 counters and auras in this set. So yeah, most of the time it's probably going to be approximately a giant growth, which is very unimpressive for 2 mana versus 1 mana, in my opinion. But
and it's a combat trick, but they're just not a priority. But you can also, they're not a priority, but you don't have to be embarrassed running this. It's a combat trick. Yeah. But just make sure you have creatures that are going to get legit big. If you have a bunch of if you're all 3/3s and 4/4s, this is falling off quickly.
Yeah, and I don't think it's going to be very relevant super often, but there is some tribal synergies in this set. This will turn off your opponent's tribal synergies, but also your own. It's probably never going to matter, but a little trick to keep in mind.
Yeah. Unhallowed Phalanx is the 1/13 for 5 that enters the battlefield tapped because an unstoppable defender at 5 mana is just too good. I don't know. It's fine. I'm sure they tested it and were just like, let's give them. It was just felt too oppressive or something. I don't know. Also, it does give the zombie feel with the slowness and everything, but clearly a plant for the Toughness Matters deck and the sub themes therein. Also, Innistrad sets have started to have a history now of joking around the number 13. 13 shows up all over, which just kind of makes it funny because like what it really wants to be is a 114, right? To actually survive all the 13s, but instead all this stuff actually kills it. But I don't know. I hope to throw this at my opponent's face for a win before this format is over. What do you think?
I suspect if you're in the toughness deck, you will get as many of these as you want during the draft.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not playing it if I'm not, right?
Right. I suspect there's going to be a lot of people who have lived the dream of getting that toughness throwing card and just throw a couple 13s at their opponent, and that's it. That's the game.
And this is making cards that are the correct amount of narrow and the correct amount of bad is another important part of Magic design. And it's only I think recently in the last 5-10 years they've come around to understanding what a correct amount of bad is. I think Mark Rosewater defended bad cards for years incorrectly. Like, no, you're wrong, Mark. They should be better than that. Magic doesn't need skill testers. Magic is a skill tester. It's skill testing all the way down in this game. You don't need to make hyper crappy commons to get the new player. We're gonna get the new player. Don't worry. I'm gonna beat him. I'm not worried about that player. So like, make all the cards actually good, right? But so then you get to but one of the best early lessons that Eric Lauer gave to me in R&D and around design, I was complaining to him about how much I hated the Unknown Shores card. It was in, it had been added to a set, and I had recently played it in, I think, Lorwyn. And it's the color filtering land. You can tap for a colorless, or you can pay 1 and tap to tap for a color, right? And I was just like, this land is so bad, like nobody, like why, I wish this was a good land. And he says like, well, if it was a better dual land, the wrong people would get it. He said this is for people doing double splashes of flashback cards. Like if you want to have a 2-color deck, but you have a bunch of off-color flashback in your flashback cards in those 2 colors, you can run this Unknown Shores and be able to cast those cards, and it's going to get to you because it's not good. It's actually going to make it around the table to the person who needs it. And that was a big aha moment for me of like, oh, I was having the classic, all cards should be good. Everything should be good for everybody. And then we all like our cards. And it really drove home that no, for limited design especially, you need to say, what are our archetypes and what cards in those archetypes are we setting up to fall to the people as prizes late, you know, because you want to fist pump when nobody else wants this card and you do. And that's a great feeling to give to your players, but you got to plan for that. And you got to make sure that a card is bad enough to make it to the right player, but good enough that that player will play it. Blood Petal Celebrant, 1 and a red for a 2/1 vampire, has first strike as long as it's attacking. That's a great little mechanic too. First strike as a endless line of first strikers on defense is pretty oppressive, and so that's another design innovation. First strike on attacking is kind of being the normal, or on your turn. When it dies, create a blood token. All right, blood tokens. This is another thing I've been wanting to talk to Alexis about, because I think if we go back to, so let's read what a blood token is here. It says, create a blood token. It's an artifact with 1 tap, discard a card, sacrifice this artifact, draw a card. In mana, in terms of mana, how much is that worth? How much is a blood token worth?
Wow. I mean, honestly, if that card was an actual printed card, I would expect it to cost 0.
Right. So be fractional. Like, is it 0.25, 0.5, 0.33?
It's really small. Like, I feel like it is like a 0.25.
0.25. Yeah, I think that's about right. Because I felt like clue tokens were about a half a card, and these feel distinctly worse, right? So, like, I think quarter of a card is interesting. Another thing I've said on here many times is that, like, a lot of Magic design is finding mechanics that are worth exactly half a mana, so that you can slap them around on cards to give this granular power level to known baselines. You know, that, again, that, all right, we got a hill giant, we know that's this. We can put half a mana worth of value onto it with this new mechanic. But specifically, I even mentioned this to Alexis before when we were talking about doing this, that I've, starting with what I would say, I think is really the spawn tokens from Rise the Eldrazi, is the first time we had a set mechanic that made tokens that weren't just power and toughness. And in that case, they blocked, you know, they were 0/1 creatures, but effectively they were treasure tokens, right? It was kind of the advent of the idea of treasure. And then we had actual treasure come around later, especially with Ixalan. And then we had clue tokens in Shadows over Innistrad, which blew me away. I was like, these are amazing. And I was almost mad at their name, because, like, how do you put clue tokens in other sets? I want these artifacts in all, you know, to come back, and clue seems like a limiting name for them. And then we had food in Eldraine, and then treasure came back in Forgotten Realms, and then we had now we have blood tokens, and I think they're incredible as a design tool. And I'll start, and the reason why is because we've said that this is only worth a quarter of a mana, right? This is not a valuable thing in a vacuum of Magic, okay? But now look at this as a designer, your job is to make people excited about your game, and really synergy. There's flavor and everything, but synergistic discoveries, I think, are at the heart of, like, that attraction of Magic that make people go, oh, these cards are better than the sum of their parts. I can combine these to do something better than just what this does on its own. I think that's a very exciting thing. And now let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at this blood token that's only worth about a quarter of a mana. And look at the number of design hooks in here. If you're a designer, let's say I said, hey, we're going to have We're going to have blood tokens throughout this set, guaranteed. It's load-bearing mechanic. Blood tokens are in. I want you to design synergies around blood tokens, okay? And now you're a designer. Look for your hooks at synergies around blood tokens, okay? A blood token is an artifact token with 1, discard a card, sacrifice this artifact, and draw a card. This meaningless object has 5 design hooks for synergies in your set. That's what got me really excited, especially when I saw clue tokens, because, you know, of course, the spawn tokens had creature and mana, right? But like clue tokens did the same thing to me. Like, oh my God, this triggers ETB artifact. Anyway, I think that's one of the huge things that I love about them so much from a design standpoint is what the tool they give to designers. But they're also what I think leads to the we don't run out of stuff to do much anymore. So anyway, what do you think of the blood token specifically and the kind of value tokens in general, Alexis?
Well, I want to start by calling out, I think it was, I don't even know how to pronounce this, Ragon Taunik in chat called out decay tokens, which, if you think about, are actually kind of in the same space because they're not just 2/2. They're 2/2s that are explicitly either sacrificial fodder or throwing them at your opponent's face. They don't act like normal 2/2s.
They can absolutely be on the list. I didn't put them there but they are not real creatures for sure.
But I think they're on the list in the same way that the spawn tokens are on the list. Those are also technically creatures, but they're not really there to be creatures.
Right.
Like, that's not their primary purpose.
Yeah.
I think so blood tokens specifically, I'm not a huge fan of as a designer, not because like I disagree with the concept of having these special tokens, but honestly, partly just because I hate the name. I think it's so like disconnected from what they are. In my brain, I'm like, why is this a blood token? What about this is blood? It just feels so utilitarian and flavorless to me. But also just they have almost too many knobs. They do like so many different things. It's so fiddly. And then you've just got this on commons everywhere. You've got this weird, like super fiddly, weird, flavorless thing. But
blood overall, is very flavorful. It kind of tastes like irony.
Okay, yeah, sure. It is the set for that. Yeah, I think conceptually I do like the idea that we're gonna keep seeing probably these kinds of like, how do you make a utilitarian effect that's worth less than a full mana but persists beyond the life of the card itself? And I think that's the important part, right? Mm-hmm. That and it used to be the only way you could do that was drawing a card. Cantrips were basically the only bonus effect that really existed in Magic until these tokens came along, right?
Right.
Or I guess normal creature tokens. You could get a 1/1 or a 0/1 or something, and or maybe a life. You get a little bit of life, but those don't work for every color. Now we can make these things and that's where treasure tokens I think came from, or spawn tokens, which are basically treasure tokens on a body. Is like they came up with another resource that you could kind of hold over, and then clue tokens are like, oh, here's half a card. And it's like, oh well, let's just keep going from there, right?
Right.
I would not be surprised to see several more of these pop up over time. I don't have any obvious ideas of what they're going to be, but I could see things like milling cards or hitting your opponent for 1 or draining them for 1, or getting a counter. I think a counter is one people expected to see that hasn't shown up yet. Sacrifices to put a counter on a creature, probably at sorcery speed. But yeah, no, I love the design space a lot. I just don't like the blood tokens that much.
Yeah, and I feel like the blood tokens have the same. Yeah, you have the same response to blood tokens that I had to clue tokens. Kind of like, well, useful, has lots of design hooks, but I'm not sure about the creative here. I mean, I could argue that there's vials of blood, right? It doesn't make a lot of sense, but I do think, like, I predict that sometime in the next 10 years, there will be a Magic set that introduces a functional reprint, a functional identical blood token, but they call it something else, like thought token or browse token. So something that talks more about generic Magic and is more on flavor with a loot. Or it's a rummage, right? So we'll see, but I do think I just love the design space they represent, and much like you see how something like Dungeons comes along and says, boy, Magic does have endless design space if you're willing to get super weird. I mean, you can get weird with it. And I think these tokens have endless design space in that way as well. Because while these are obvious and clean, let's do a rummage token, right? You can do all sorts of combo things. You could make a 2-mana to crack it clue, except it rummaged and faltered a creature, or so there's like you can any set you could have some combination of abilities on that token that worked with that set, and it really there's kind of endless, not endless, but there's still many things they can do by again combining these little 25%, 30%, 50% of a mana effects onto a token. So as for this, seems like a solid 2-drop, right?
Yeah. I think if the aggressive deck is actually a thing in this set, then this is a great card to put in it.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, I'm a little bit worried because you've got a
great
toughness
point.
You've got your toughness matters deck, you've got fat creatures in green, you've got so many ways to deal with this that I have seen just in the you can see just on this screen alone, right? So
right. I think your stance of go in presuming that low down hyper aggro is going to be tough to pull off with all the toughness we're seeing. I think that's fair. Destroy target artifact or enchantment, you gain 3 life. Not doing any of that. All right, so what do you like out of this pack?
I'm still on the werebear, honestly. I think it.
Yeah, me too. Nothing in common ever got better than this uncommon, so let's take it. All right, market 10:03 Seattle time. Pack 1, pick 1. Logged. New cards, yay! Lay Duress, 3 and a green, enchantment, uncommon. Whenever a human you control dies, draw a card. Human build around screaming at us. Whenever a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it dies, you gain 2 life. Incidental life gain is all well and good, but it's the if this is at all good, it's going to be because you have a ton of humans and you're expecting them to die. Is this good enough to run because you have a lot of humans, but no, you're not sacrificing, or do you think you need to be self-sacrificing to have that be a functioning card?
I struggled to see this being good and limited without a very specific deck that I'm not sure exists in this set, at least in green.
Yeah, like if this had been a
cards, right? If you've drawn 2 cards, then you still don't feel great. It's that 3rd card that makes this worth it. And how often is that going to happen across the course of a limited game?
I love it. That's how I kind of assessed that rare curse from the last set, because we were talking about whether a 5-mana draw, personal howling mine is worth it, and it's like, well, it's not until the 3rd card before you're even remotely happy with having done that. But then you get happier and happier, right? So I'm with you. This seems like a very tough to build around and a very odd colored pair for it to be in. If this were in Midnight Hunt, I would expect it to be in a white-black deck, right? I expect this to be like a white effect.
Yep, I think it's the training deck, like I said in the chat. I think the training deck is going to be mostly humans.
Mm-hmm. Panicked Bystander, 1 and a white for a 2/2 human peasant. Whenever Panicked Bystander or another creature you control dies, you gain 1 life. So we got a grizzly bear that gains life on death. At the beginning of your end step, if you gained 3 or more life this turn, transform. So really, I'm going to say I'm not counting on getting there by 3 creatures dying on a turn. So I'm already
specifically not this one.
Yeah.
So.
And also vanilla testing it. I will always defend the grizzly bear. You're going to throw 2/2s for 2 in your curve because they fit in your curve. So it already would go in any white deck I'm playing just by being a baseline 2/2 if I needed that curve slot. But I'm not treating it as any more than a grizzly bear unless I have life gain throughout the deck. Cackling Culprit is what you get on the flip side. 3/5. Whenever it or another creature you control dies, you gain 1 life, and it has 1 and a black to gain Death Touch until end of turn. I mean, that's nice upside for a life gain deck. I mean, I was already, like I said, you're not embarrassed, or you do what you got to do in terms of 2/2s for 2. So any upside is good for me, but really it's either a grizzly bear or a pretty powerful card in a life gain deck, which again is that design trick of letting this card fall to those who will make good use of it. It's not going to be us, I don't think. At least not now. Vampire's Vengeance, 2 and a red, instant. It deals 2 damage to each non-vampire creature. Create a blood token. Interesting. Normally, your Pyroclasm effects just get everything, right?
Yeah, normally Pyroclasm is solid. This is a trick they've done. I think they've done this card like 4 times now. They did it for like non-pirates. They did it for like
yeah, I remember the Pirates one.
Fires was one, but I don't think that's quite the same. It was yeah. I don't know. The thing I don't like about this card is that, again, high toughness based set, and then the aggressive deck is red white, which is going to have some number of vampires in it, and you also don't get vampires in the the black red clue. Like, it's just like the things that this hits that you it is so niche that this feels like a constructed card to me.
I think you're right, because I think what happens is you like my best case scenario mentality brain immediately goes to, ooh, in my aggressive vampire deck, all my stuff lives and your small stuff dies. Except when they're playing a vampire deck, right? Like, then that's the wah.
Yeah, I mean, it's an instant. You can play it during combat. You can do some sneaky things with it. I think you play this card if you have the vampire deck. I think you play it.
Yeah, you risk it.
You're quick to sideboard it out. That's all. Yeah,
it's a good best of 3 card to understand whether you want it in your deck. A Braid down here. I'm gonna hop right to a Braid because it's also red, and this is just like such an easy pick if nothing else is in this pack. This is a reprint from Amonkhet, and was this uncommon in Amonkhet? I can't remember, but regardless, especially in best of 1, that extra ability to pick off an annoying artifact is nice. I haven't seen any so far, but if they're there. But 3 damage to any target, any creature for 2 at instant speed is a premium removal spell. Drogskull Infantry, 1 and a white for a 2/2 with Disturb. And it becomes, oh yeah, that's right, Disturb is auras on the other side. So gets +2/+2, and so yeah, the whole thing is they become an aura of what they are, right? And so this has, like, if this had been a 2/2 flyer, the aura would be +2/+2 in flying, right? But this is just a 2/2, so it's just gives you a +2/+2 aura. How do you even?
It's inconsistent whether they grant the power toughness from the other side, but everything else is very consistent. It's always the abilities, and it always exiles when it's done, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, you might want to make a 5/5 Disturb, and you can't justify +5/+5 aura or something like that. That makes sense.
I think if you were, for example, if you were just looking for a 2-drop and you weren't the life gain deck, I think this is better than the uncommon as a comparison's sake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed. Flourishing. Yeah, I don't know what I think of these in general. Certainly, I like Wizards has this ongoing R&D has this ongoing relationship with auras where you understand that people love to build their own beast. People love to Voltron and Battle Cruiser, whatever you want to call it. People love it, especially newer players. But that's why newer players get blown out by getting trapped into auras. So finding ways to let newer players and just aura lovers actually get their kicks without being fools, without being trapped, has been this ongoing quest. And this is just the latest installment of, wait, auras don't have to suck. And sure, as a free card, like, this is great, right? I mean, again, to Grizzly Bear with upside, and yeah, I'll take the free card upside on a Grizzly Bear. That seems fine, especially a common. Flourishing Hunter, 6/6 for 6 in green. Enters the battlefield, gain life equal to the greatest toughness among other creatures you control. All right, well, we've seen how much this has gone up over the recent years of Limited, but boy, I'm not sure I would have liked that last set. So I'm not sure if we're going to like it this set or not, but I don't know. How do you assess a card like this, Alexis, that's been great in some formats and really unplayable in others?
I mean, I feel like it's really dependent on knowing how fast the format is. Like, if you've got a mid-range format, this card's going to be great for a common because you'll just get to 6 mana and then you almost win the game by it's not quite Palaka Worm, but it's that level of backbreaking. I mean, I don't know how many times you've had Palaka Worm cast against you, but it's usually pretty
enough.
Yeah, it's pretty not great. Obviously, this assumes you have another creature, but assuming you're doing that, This seems pretty ridiculous for a common, but I think obviously we're not taking it right now. We're not near that stage yet.
But it's just interesting that these cards have come up. It was it Ikoria that had the first one that surprised me with the 6/6 that gained some life that was playable.
Right.
Yeah. I think somewhat depends on the quality of removal in the set as well. Not just that you're worried that you're going to get your 6 mana picked off by something cheap, but specifically because you can pick off their board. Like Hunter, 6/6s for 6 in green get better as the boards get emptier, right? So if we're trading back and forth with good removal and killing our creatures, and I land a 6/6, you're in trouble. If it's a removal light or removal awkward set where we're actually curving out and building up a board, and I drop a 6/6 into your 2/2, 3/3, and 4/4, it's much less impressive, right? So that's a factor for these as well. So I'm just kind of wait and see, but but historically I would have been, this is whatever. Now I'm like, wow, these can be amazing. Let's see if this is the set for this to be amazing. And yeah, the toughness deck gaining 13 off of your 5-drop would certainly buy you some time.
5-drop's a key card. I can't wait to see people playing it and everything.
Yeah,
it's great.
Fear of Death, 1 and a blue for an enchantment aura. Enchant creature, when it enters the battlefield, mill 2 cards. That's you. Enchanted creature gets -X, -0, where X is the number of cards in your graveyard. Well, you're getting at least -2 on turn 2, so it's going to handle something early. But then we're just in aura removal land, where we are controlling creatures by temporarily putting these auras on them. They're better against some opponents than others, but especially if we think this might be a grindy, mid-range, go-long type format, the longer Fear of Death sticks around on your opponent's creature, the longer they have to find a way to get some value back out of that creature. So if I am playing aura-based removals, I like ones that clear blockers and are in aggro decks, because then I'm killing you dead before you can leverage the weakness of the removal I'm using, and my removal is still clearing the way for attacks. This does not clear the way for attacks, and it doesn't seem like the format's aggressive, so I'm out on this right now.
I mean, if you're playing against blue-black, they're going to exploit the creature. If you're playing against green-black, they're going to be like, whatever, toughness is all that matters. If you're playing against, God, this has so many fail options on it.
Yeah. So avoid. If I had like 0 interaction and a weak low curve in a blue deck in pack 3, I'm gonna suck it up and run this thing. But like that's where I'm running this thing at this point until proven wrong.
You were mentioning that being weak to flyers might be a thing, but if you're in blue, hopefully you have better ways to deal with flyers.
Right. Others should be weak to you in that case. Diregraph Scavenger, 3 and a black for a 2/3 Death Touch. That's a bit pricey, but what else does it do? When it enters the battlefield, exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard. If a creature card was exiled this way, drain 2.
Oof.
That helps it, but it's still a Death Touch for 4. I don't like paying 4 mana for Death Touchers. I like paying, as we discussed, 1 mana for Death Touchers. But, I don't know.
Yeah, would I play this? I mean, sometimes the exiling a card is going to be upside of its own accord, but like if this was just Highway Robbers with Death Touch, like I'm still not excited about it.
Yeah, and you don't even get that. You got to work for it a little bit. So I'm down on that. Might curve fill, might sideboard in against a lot of flourishing hunters or something, but on the face of it, I don't love that. Toxic Scorpion, 1 and a green for a 1/1 Death Touch. Back to this one. We looked at that last time, same comments. We talked about a Braid already. Syncopate is back. This is one of my favorite little curve fillers in Dominaria, because that was a set where you needed 2 mana on turn 2 and 13 mana on turn 16, and this was a way to use that 13 mana on turn 16 or 2 mana on turn 2. So I love how this one scales. Where are you at on Syncopate?
I think it's fine. There's a different counterspell in this set that, I don't know. I don't find like this better or worse than the other counterspell. They're both fine. I want a counterspell or 2 in my deck. I always want. I prefer Negate is actually one of my favorites, but I'll play Cancel.
I do love this is a 2-drop.
Yeah, actually,
You know,
now that I think about it more, I think it's going to be a playable card. I'm not as sure what curves are going to look like in these
mm,
sets because you don't have to be super aggressive. But one, I don't think it's a super aggressive set, and two, you've got blood tokens to help fill those curve holes. So like a
right.
syncopate for one might just never do much except on turn 2 or 3 when you're getting something that you don't really want to be getting, but you're like, if I don't use the syncopate, I don't do anything, and that's obviously worse. So it's fine. I think it's fine.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think also though people are going to be rummaging away their extra lands a lot and are going to be playing tight on mana, right? So you may find that syncopate for one does something on turn 7 because your opponent has rummaged themselves to a perfect 5 land and are staying there. But we'll see. Certainly it's playable, right? It's just how good is it?
I think you play it. Don't
Yeah,
get me
yeah.
wrong. You play it. I just don't think it's an exciting pick.
Yeah, since we were disagreeing, I wanted to make sure that like both of us are playing this. We're just not sure how good it's going to play out. Reckless Impulse, 1 and a red for a sorcery. Exile the top 2 cards of your library until the end of your next turn. You may play those cards. Draw 2 in red, but the disaster case is you draw 2 big things and you can cast either 0 or 1 of them. It does say play, so you can play lands. That's always very important. If it said cast, this would be almost uncastable. But I don't know. What do you think of red card draw that way? It's very red.
It is very red, and I think I don't know. Like so like kind of the baseline for this effect normally would be discard a card, draw 2 cards. That's usually what you get at 2 mana for red, and so red. There's not a whole lot of reasons to discard cards in this set if you're in red. So I think this is possibly actually better. I think because red's also an aggressive color. I see this actually playing out reasonably well, honestly. Now that being said, like it's obviously not a very high pick. Like let's be clear, this is like a something you fill your deck with. But I suspect that there are going to be a lot of decks where this is actually completely playable.
Yeah, it seems it's that next turn, right? I mean, if you had to do it all this turn, it would be unplayable. But that's like you said, that's what Light Up the Stage really introduced for us and said, again, that's the little nudges you see Magic making that you also that I don't know how you feel, Alexis, but sometimes when an innovation comes out or a tweak to an existing thing, I'm like, oh, I was in the building, I should have come up with that like why didn't we figure that out at the time? And because it's very red to not see far ahead, but it doesn't have to be this turn. And that little innovation of let red card draw have 1 extra turn to work with doesn't cause memory issues and is has made these cards good instead of a joke. So love that design. The one thing to call out though, like it's not a 2-drop, right? And that's something to take note. You know, you could run what's the Ixalan blue card that draw 2 or loot if you haven't attacked. You know, like that's one you can play on 2. So card draw you can play on curve is at its best, but this I agree is going to see some play. Just keep in mind it's not a 2-drop. Pointed Discussion. 2 and a black. You draw 2 cards, lose 2 life, then create a blood token. Yet another 3 mana or 4 mana, hurt yourself and draw some cards, black card. Kind of like 2.5 cards. Like, whoops, I drew one of these. One of the cards I drew was a land. That's all right, I'll loot it away with this blood token. When do you like these cards and when do you not like them?
I mean, it's certainly very comparable to like Read the Bones, right? Like scry 2, then draw 2, lose 2. Like, yeah, you're not getting the scry up front, but the blood token kind of fills in for that a little bit. It's worse than Read the Bones, I think, but it's not that much worse than Read the Bones. And I think Read the Bones is great in most limited formats. You almost always play them.
But also we've seen card draw change in limited such that there's so many little fiddly ways to get advantage. Like last time, like we never played the version of this in the last set because black was doing all these things to gain advantage on its own. You know, you'd rather have Ecstatic Awakener than something like this to draw cards with, right? So
that's the thing I'm trying to figure out is like we don't know. You know, it tends to be in slower formats. Card draw gets better because you need to hit more of your land drops. You need to hit to those bigger things that break the game open.
Yeah.
So I suspect this might be pretty decent, but it's hard to say because you've got the blood tokens, right? That gives you something to do with both your extra cards and your extra mana late game. But there isn't a whole lot else going in this set that gives you like just raw cards. So
yeah, to me, this has two jobs: card advantage, and well, it's kind of the same job, but very specifically, like winning attrition battles via card advantage. So not only, so for me, I'm really happy to play this kind of thing when I don't have stuff like Ecstatic Awakener getting me card advantage from other avenues in my deck, and I've got enough removal going on in black that I can leverage it into a board advantage. One problem with the removal heavy deck is that if you don't have a lot of card flow, sure, 1 for 1, 1 for 1, 1 for 1, 1 for 1 for the first 4 creatures my opponents play. Then I run out of removal. They cast a card draw spell. They play a 5th creature, and now I lose to that, right? So raw card draw is great if you're removal heavy because it allows you to actually win the game with your removal instead of simply surviving for a while until finally they land a creature that gets you. I want to call out that some in chat were talking about turn 2, turn 3, reckless impulse. I do have a question. Like, I could see scenarios where I would cast this on 2 because I don't have a 3rd land, and even if it's a 3-drop and a 4-drop on top of my library at the moment, great, get those out of the way because I need a 3rd land, right? So either I'm going to find the 3rd land I need next turn, or I'm going to clear away, effectively pay a poorly costed scry effect to find what I need. But you do what you gotta. And then Mike mentioned casting this on 3 before land drop, and then you get most likely a land drop. And boy, if you come up with anything 4 or less, you're going to be able to cast it. And most people's decks are mostly 4 or less mana, so that's a good call as well.
But it does lock in what you're probably doing. That's the one thing.
No choice, right?
The worst thing about these cards early is that you feel like you're obligated to use those cards in any way you possibly can, and it forces you into some really bad decisions sometimes. So I do not like playing these cards earlier than about turn 4 if I can help it.
Right.
Speaking to the point of discussion really fast, so I'm going to show my green this year. I didn't actually play Midnight Hunt. Was it a fast limited format or a slow limited format? Because I feel like it's likely that devs would have gone the other way for Vow. Like, I feel like they would have tried to flip the scenario.
I think it was slower. I feel like Midnight Hunt was pretty grindy. Okay. Would you agree, chat? There was the vampire deck could be fast, and there are some tempo-y blue, green white could be fast, but mostly I think it was mid to slow. I agree with Hat.
Makes me wonder if maybe I'm just misevaluating this actually, like between training and the cheap creatures and the auras disturb and stuff like that. Maybe there's actually more either aggression type speed or tempo type speed in this deck in this set than I'm thinking. Interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah. Last card in this pack is Sigarda's Imprisonment, the pacifism. 4 and a white, exile enchanted creature and create a blood token. Maybe if this had been 2 mana, I certainly like that this gives you the out to get the thing completely off the board and gives you something to do. But I still think you're in this window where now you're racing to find a window to spend 4 so that they can't get value back out of the fact that you've used aura removal. So I'm suspect of this too, but at least it clears a blocker. So if there is aggro white, this gets a much better grade from me than Fear of Death, because at least Imprisonment takes out a blocker on the turn you cast it.
Yep.
So what do we take in here?
With the Braid, personally, I think it's the only card that I'm excited about at all. Yeah,
this is just head and shoulders, right? Above everything else here.
Yep.
Oh,
not a big surprise.
Look, we're starting into werewolves.
Yep. When I was reading through the spoiler, the commons, a Braid was like the only common that I was like, yeah, I'd first pick this. That was literally it. So.
Yep. And but the 8 total mana is absolutely a lot, but as we've learned, tacked on extra effects that just give you something to do with that turn where you're going to leave 7 mana fallow anyway is part of what makes Modern Limited feel so action-packed. Even if it's not a great effect, I get to do something this turn. Yay! It's relevant. But yes, it's still not a good card. We know Vengeance. We've talked about that. Let's see what this one is. Geistlight Snare, 2 and a blue for an instant. Costs 1 less to cast if you control a spirit. It also costs 1 less to cast if you control an enchantment. Counter target spell unless its control pays 3. So you get a mana leak if you have a spirit, and you get a half price mana leak if you've got a spirit and an enchantment. So this is a, I don't know. I'm not really happy to play mana leak. Like, the difference between 3 and 4 is huge. There was a card last set, Alexis, that was Flip the Switch. 2 and a blue, counter target spell unless its controller pays 4, and make a decay token, make a 2/2 zombie with decay. And that was exceedingly playable, but there were many times where it was specifically 4, not 3, that made it good. So it's not even... it's no joke, the difference between 3 and 4 there in terms of what you can shut down and for how long. That being said, if you're in blue-white and you just got spirits and enchantments up and down your deck, a 1 mana counter target, unless they pay 3, seems fine. Where are you playing this?
I think if you're, so for starters, I'm not 100% clear if you get the discount if you have just an enchantment. I think you do. So I think either a spirit or enchantment makes it 2 mana. Not that that's a huge upgrade. I think at 2 mana, like, the thing that makes mana leak so great at 2 mana, in my opinion, is because it gives you, like, there's lots of things that make it good, obviously, but like the idea that it can fill in your curve at 2 mana is a big deal, and this will almost never do that. So let's not worry about that. So I think the only thing that this is going to be good in is your spirit deck, which is going to have enchantments by definition because it's got disturb. So honestly, I feel like this is exactly that kind of card that you should expect to get 10th pick for your spirits deck and be super excited to have it in your spirits deck and nowhere else.
Agreed.
So it's a 1 mana trick, right? You have your board, and now you have your 1 mana trick that no one sees coming. So,
but if spirits are super tempo-y, which it seems like they could be, because that's what something auras are trying to do, is just get creatures big, evasive, or whatever, and get them in. So this is a 1 mana counter you can hold up, could be good in that deck, but again, it is going to make it to those players. Weary Prisoner, we talked about before and didn't like. Adamant Will is a reprint. Serviceable combat trick, but nothing much more than that. The Indestructible is real. I like that it kind of does the... Really, you could almost say target creature gains indestructible until end of turn, and it does a lot of what you want it to do. But, of course, +2/+2 helps it eat something else in combat. But, yeah, whatever. Playable, but not important. Scorpion again. Crushing Canopy. Another reprint. We've seen this a million times. It's a sideboard card. It's not enough utility to run best of 1 unless the format is really defined by these things, flying and enchantment. And of course, there is a bunch of enchantments, so maybe, but I still am starting this. I'm not going to run this in best of 1 unless I'm desperate.
No, the enchantments are in the same colors that the flyers are in too, so it's not that good.
Right. You're not getting a spread of what you're hitting. Good point. Rot Tide Gargantua, 3 black for a 5/4 with exploit, and when it exploits a creature, each opponent sacrifices a creature. Making opponents sacrifice just gets their worst creature. It's this is a reason to never play aura removal. If you're running this, you can't run aura removal, or you're just non-bowing yourself. But is a pretty wide range on the impact of this effect, though, right? It can be insane, or it can pick off their 1/1 that they don't care about. Where are you on this?
It does. So, compare this to your typical 3/1 for 3 that makes everybody sack, right? That's a pretty common merciless executioner. We've seen that a lot. Mm-hmm. The upside is this is, the failed case of this is it's just 5 mana 5/4. You don't have to use the ability.
Of course.
A huge deal in that sense. Obviously, the downside is at 5 mana, this is much more likely that your opponent will have fodder sitting around that is not, worth it. But you can also sacrifice your worst creature too to do this.
Yes. So that's the idea, right? Is that you've got expendables.
Exactly.
And then it's kind of free.
I suspect a 5 mana 5/4 is going to be solid enough that you're going to want to play this if you have it. I don't think it's a high pick though. Yeah, it's because it's nice that the floor is a 5/4 for 5, but that's not super acceptable at this point.
there's plenty of 5/4s for 5 with no text that we've seen in the last couple of years, and they are consistent last picks, and grudgingly, I guess I have to do something. But this isn't that. I'm just saying that, but it's nice that that's the floor. I mean, the floor is a creature you can play and not be embarrassed by.
I suspect that this is the kind of card you really want if you have the exploit deck going, if you have the rewards for exploiting things, and otherwise it's your 23rd card.
Yeah. And this also goes better the more removal you have. If you've got a lot of nice, clean removal for cheap creatures that you can play early and then drop this when they only have something great, that's the dream as well. So there's somewhat build around in terms of, obviously exploit wants the fodder as well, but exploit that does the sacrifice thing is better supported by additional removal. Not like I have to twist anybody's arm to draft removal, but worth noting the synergy there. Fear of Death, I have fear of that card. End the festivities, red for a sorcery. End the festivities deals 1 damage to each opponent and each creature and planeswalker they control. That is sideboard, and it's gonna have to be quite the 1 toughness deck before I'm ever bringing this in. Yeah. I'm assuming you're in the same place there. Yeah. Imprisonment, we just talked about that. Pointed discussion, we talked about that. Grisly Ritual, this sounds like kill. Destroy target creature or planeswalker, create 2 blood tokens for 6 mana. That is clunk as hell. Is this a set? So far, I haven't seen much great removal. And we have a Braid, so we have that.
You have now seen everything that I can remember at common other than a fight card that I remember in green as far as removal goes.
Really?
You've got your bad pacifism, your bad murder, and a Braid, and then a fight card. And that's all I remember.
Wow. So that also supports the notion of a ground clog. If we're not firing off, if removal is bad and or scarce, we're not going to be using it on Oppo's early stuff. And
Chad is reminding me there's also a magma spray, and I think there's actually a dead weight variant as well.
So right. So there's some small stuff. That's good. Okay. But interesting. It certainly doesn't seem like the power packed removal we've seen from other sets. So are we following with a red or green pick here, or just taking something new? Forget our picks. What's the best card in this pack? If this was our pick 1, what are you taking here?
This was my pick 1. I'd drop and go to another draft.
Yeah, right. This is pretty garbagey.
Maybe the pacifism. I'm not super thrilled about it. I think I like the pacifism better than the 6-man removal. So there's that. I
guess that's it. It's that or like card draw, right? Nothing else here is worth taking. Maybe it's the Gargantua, but again, that maybe take the Gargantua in case there is an exploit lane open, and then this actually does get kind of good.
I'm like honestly mildly tempted by the do 2 to everything. Honestly, just because at least then you like the games that's good in, it's going to be really good in, but it's still like pick 3 is not when you want to be picking good sideboard cards.
That's true. Somebody suggested the Scorpion. We talked about not liking it because it's 2 instead of 1, but it is green and we have a green start, so it's not the worst. But garbage pack.
The other thing worth considering is maybe Weary Prisoner is not quite as bad as we think it is. Like it turns into a 6/6. It's not terrible.
Yeah, 4 mana.
Not excited about it, but
I just don't trust the ground beef after the betrayal of last set. I'm gonna make large ground creatures beat me before I lean in. So I'm gonna just go with imprisonment, despite our concerns about the aura nature.
Yep, I think that's probably, if it was a first pick, I think imprisonment is correct. So
Edgar's Awakening, 3 black. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. When you discard this, you can pay black and return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So a Madness Raise Dead or a 5 mana Zombify. I don't know how reliable Madness Raise Dead is, but have not been impressed with 5 mana Zombify of late.
I mean, this goes with blood tokens. It's just if you're blood token heavy, Because it goes both ways, right? If you have this in your hand, you can raise dead with the blood token, or you can use the blood token to toss something big in and reanimate it. If you have like a bomb that's like something.
Yeah, that's fair. Maybe if you're blood token heavy, you can throw this in and know that you're going to get a raise dead. But it's kind of a free one, though, right? It's a raise dead draw card. That's pretty good.
Yeah. I think it's doing the same thing a lot of cards in this set seem to be doing, which is great if you're in the deck, terrible otherwise, or at least borderline playable. This is really seeming like a very high synergy set.
Yeah. Fearful Villager, Werewolf, 2/3, Menace for 3, and it flips into a 4/3 Menace. We basically had this... Well, we had a 3/2 that flipped into a 4/4 Trample or something. Another totally playable curve filler, but nothing exciting, especially if we think the ground is going to be pretty clogged.
Menace does help. I think
Menace helps for sure.
I'm okay with that card. I think that's, just glancing at everything here, this card seems like it might be a reasonable pick out of the pack, but I see...
Oh, yeah, that's a really interesting point, Mike. Why this kind of... Would you say this happens on accident? I mean, I know you didn't play the last set, but last set had a card called
I looked it up.
Shady Traveler, right? And it is literally the same card except for color and 1 point of toughness. Is that just bad R&D communication?
Wow, and not only that, but like you would think the red one would be better because it's in the werewolf colors that are supposed to be doing this, and it would encourage you to be. That's interesting.
Yeah, the colors matter, but it's a weird. It's the uncanny valley effect, but magic cards, right? You kind of want to avoid the close but not quite, and just do something to make it feel significantly different. I don't know.
I saw this actually discussion on Twitter, and the response from R&D basically boiled down to, different sets have different needs, and we don't necessarily worry too much about how cards feel in a vacuum compared to how they feel in the set. So
yeah, it would be much more egregious if these were in the same set. It would be something you could legit criticize and say that you all just missed that. That is way too close for the same set. But it is true that, also you just have different teams. Again, when you're focused head down on your set, you deliver what your set needs without worrying too much about what existed in the last set and how close it was. But you can't do it within the same set without some pushback. Daybreak Combatants, 2 and a red for a human warrior, 2/2 haste. When it enters the battlefield, target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. So it can be itself. You can get a 4/2 haste for 3, or split it somewhere else. If this doesn't have a good attack, you can throw this on your flyer for some extra damage. But then you got a 2/2 for 3, 2/2 body, pretty underwhelming pretty quickly. And also this screams aggression. So we again get to the question of how good is aggro. Alexis and I have our eyebrows raised over the concept of good aggro with what we're seeing so far, but we haven't played it, so we'll see. Certainly not taking this here, though, right? Not even close.
I don't think so.
Scattered Thoughts, 3 and a blue, instant. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. Put 2 of those cards in your hand and the rest into your graveyard. Certainly like the graveyard clause here. You can get a lot of extra value, especially in white-blue. Instant speed helps you operate at instant speed. But other than that, generic card draw, right?
Yeah. It seems like your classic 4-mana card selection plus draw 2, which we see all the time. Totally play it. Not excited about it here, but
it's funny how R&D went through a long phase of blue. Blue is historically overpowered because we gave it counter magic and instant speed card draw, which gives blue this play pattern of wait, counter as needed, or draw a card if not needed. Draw cards if not needed. Win game, long game, right? So then they went hard away from that. Like we did not see constructed playable instant speed card draw for a while, and then it kind of feels like R&D is like, well, let's just make all the other stuff that blue wants to counter better, and then it can have its trick back again, right? And
they also made counterspells worse, which I think was the actual correct choice because everybody hates counterspells, whereas nobody cares if you draw cards.
Right. Yeah, it
in
doesn't.
a casual sense, right? Like,
Yeah, well, you don't feel like you lost a card draw until you're a very good player. Then you understand that you lost a card draw, but mostly people feel like, yeah, me drawing cards is not a feel bad for you like me countering your spell is. That's a great emotional point. So anyway, I just thought mention that, like, we're back to the old school pattern of hold up counters and draw if you don't counter something, and but it's balanced, so it's good. Skywarp Scab, 3 blue for 2/5 flying, and when it enters, you may draw a card if you exile 2 creature cards from your graveyard. That is maybe that's a signpost for the set, though, right?
I mean, that's another high toughness card. This one's a flyer. It's great.
Right, a high toughness flyer that extracts some value if you can make the game go a little longer. So yeah, I'm going to be playing that, I think. That seems, especially I'm going to try and self-mill, of course. You're going to have enough natural death that you're going to be able to get the card a lot of the time anyway, but obviously I'm going to prioritize a little self-mill if I'm doing any number of these things. It's a 5-drop, though. I don't know how important it is. Dissenter is what you were talking about earlier, a reprint that serves the exploit theme. 1 and a black, 1/1. When it dies, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. No decay there, just a 2/2. And that's so far the premium sacrifice fodder for exploit at common. I don't know if you've found something else. You said you didn't see too much, but that's got to be the...
Yeah, I remember there being 1 or 2 other things, but this was definitely the one that caught my eye. And if we didn't already have some cards in our deck going a certain direction, this would be a high pick for me. Yeah. Honestly, I think it's the kind of glue. I think it's easy to get the exploit engine going from the exploit card sense, but I think this is the card you're going to want as many possible copies as you can get.
Yeah, if you're doing the exploit thing, for sure. But also it's pretty medium if you're not doing self-sacrifice, right? So this could be another one that I expect to fall to you if you want it, unless you're competing with somebody else for the archetype.
The problem is, like, the fail case for this is it's still a 2-mana kind of pseudo 2/2 that, like, I think you always play this, so I think it's not going to get around to you quite as often as, like, the 1/13, for example. I think
maybe you like it better than me. I've never prioritized this card if I wasn't trying to get value out of its death. I've never really loved it as a chump, and now I've got a 2/2. Too much evasion. It's bad against flyers.
Sure. I don't. And to be clear, I'm not prioritizing it. I'm just saying that, like, I feel like expecting to get this on the wheel just feels a lot less likely than expecting to get the 1/13 on the wheel.
All right, so then let's do some predictions here. Where is the average draft position for this card going to be in 17 lands data after it's pretty solid? Because I think you're probably right. I just think it, but I would put it in more of the 7-8 range, so that
I was debating somewhere in the 6 to 8 range. In my mind.
So I think we actually feel about the same way about it, and I just feel
1/13. I feel like the 1/13 is going to be more like a 10th pick. Like, you can actually help to wheel it.
Yeah. Right. So I think we'll see this wheel sometimes. If we feel like it barely doesn't wheel on average, that means the bell curve is going to spill into the wheeling side a good chunk of the time. So
that's fair. We'll
see. Nature's Embrace, 2 and a green for an aura, enchant creature or land. As long as enchanted permanent is a creature, it gets +2/+2. If it's a land, it gets tapped to add 2 of any color. Well, there's some more flexibility in design to support best of one. This is the kind of stuff we're just going to see more of. A lot of things being modal in a way that encourages people to feel good about running something where they're not sideboarding. We haven't talked about that. I don't know how you feel about the game's hard turn towards best of one. And before you even give me your answer, I want to set you and the listeners up with the story of the day that it kind of mattered, which is I was doing the systems design on Arena.
That was, I mean, not literally that team, but
yeah, Alexis and I worked together on Arena for a couple years there, by the way, and I was trying to figure this stuff out. I mean, we didn't have a roadmap for what type of play experience we were going to offer / push on players, and Magic has long struggled to compete in the modern era of fast gaming experiences, the 5-ish minute, your Clash Royale, I can play in line at the grocery store and then I'm done type gaming experience. Magic has never really been able to guarantee that. The games can go so long. And we really were looking at best of one as a way to, shorten the play time of a Magic match by, it's 2.5 times longer when you play best of three. And so there was really strong reasons to support best of one in a modern gaming sense. But Magic is a game designed for best of three from the heart of it. R&D thinks of things in terms of best of three, sideboarding, all that stuff. So I went and I was like, well, let's check with the boss. So I scheduled a meeting with Aaron Forsyth to even understand where R&D was on this. And I sat down with him and explained the issue. We're trying to figure out how much to support this. It was like, so what is R&D's position on best of one, yay or nay? And Aaron was like, I want it. I love the idea of single game experiences being competitive and relevant to me on Arena. And so if you all want to head in that direction, we will start having meetings in R&D about how we're going to support that direction. And we did. And we started moving in that direction. And here's where we are. And now this is where I want to hear what Alexis thinks about this shift towards best of one that was blessed by Aaron Forsyth and is now a major part of Magic.
I have mixed feelings about it. Like, some of my favorite decks are decks that would be basically shouldn't exist in best of one. Like, I've been a combo player during a large portion of my existence in Standard when that was a thing that was allowed. And I, beyond that, I tend to play decks that are narrower and more focused and do broken things like, affinity, things like that. That being said, that's kind of a thing of the past. Like, Standard these days always seems like whatever's going on in that format, like, there's not a whole lot of super narrow broken things that require very specific answers to stops effectively, right? So
or if so, they were accidents.
right, exactly. And to me that's the thing that I miss about, like, going to best of one, as to me kind of signals the acceptance from R&D that that's going to be the permanent state moving forward, that they're never going to try to figure out how to make combo and super synergistic decks be mainstays of Standard again. Like, not like it'll never happen, but like it, whenever it does happen, they seem to think of it as being a mistake that they need to keep their eye on, like the oops all turns type decks, things like that, where like they don't really like that. They seem to just keep pushing you away towards mid-range aggro and bad control. And I don't know, that's the part that kind of turned me off from Magic a lot as far as constructed goes. But in draft, I think it's great. I think best of one is perfect for draft. I think it's the kind of thing, like, I'm in that group of people who will often say, I just want to draft. I don't actually want to play the games. Like, the games to me are just a way of confirming that the draft I did was as good as I thought it was or as bad as I thought it was. It's like a feedback loop, and then you want to get back in the draft as fast as possible, right?
So perfect day for you here, right?
This is great. We're going to play it all. Any games. Forget Magic. We're here to talk shop.
Yes.
As far as this card goes, this actually isn't, to me, part of that design. Like, this to me is not a best of one, best of three type of card, because both modes are, neither mode is really that dependent on what your opponent is doing. Like, yeah, sure, you don't really want to play the aura if your opponent's a removal heavy deck, but like, it's not like if your deck can't make use of the second mode, then you've probably done something wrong, and you probably aren't sideboarding this out in your second game if you're playing best of three. So
yeah, that's a great point. This isn't really a great best of one, best of three example because your opponent is not affecting your choice, really.
Right. Yeah, only a little bit. I think as far as this card
they've got a big creature, so I need to make a big creature. But it's not about you saying, should I destroy their artifact or loot or whatever modal spell is trying to accomplish that best of one thing.
And we've seen this effect a few times. Like, sometimes the upside is gain 3 life or whatever. I think that this card is pretty meh, and I think if you're playing it because you want to play lots of colors. I don't think there's any other reason.
Yeah, and again, what I always say about you're unlikely you're going to use the +2/+2 sometime, but I think Alexis is right. If you are running this, it's because you both want to ramp and fix, and I say both because my problem with a card like this is if you play this and you ramp to one giant creature a turn early and don't do anything else relevant with that extra mana or the fixing, then you've effectively used 2 cards to create 1 large creature. And if that creature dies, then you've been 2 for 1. So you only really want to run these when you're doing so much at the top end that you're going to get continued value out of the extra mana, or you're doing 3+ colors and need the fixing, right? But 1 or 2 things at the top end is a terrible reason to run ramp like this.
Yeah, I look forward to drafting the 5-color deck in this format where you get a few balmy rares and then pick a couple of these and a couple of that artifact that taps for any color and maybe a couple dual lands and you just use the multicolor value deck. But I don't think that's, like, we're obviously not going to go that direction if we haven't already got the bombs.
Right. And I like what Mike has to say, though, that you know, a lot of the problem with a aura to ramp is that it's truly a terrible top deck once you have achieved all the mana you need. At least this does give you something to do with it off the top when your mana is fully fixed. So that's a good point. Makes it a little better. Oh yeah, and on creature lands, that's cool. I didn't think of that either. But best of both worlds on creature lands, sweet. Lightning Wolf, 3 in a red for a 4/3 with activated ability. 1 in a red. Lightning Wolf gains first strike until end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery. Well, no threat of activation here. Lightning Wolf, but it's that slow kind of lightning. You know, that slow light. So 4/3 for 4 in red. Boy, have we seen a ton of these at common. What do we think of the evasive potential of first strike?
Wow, this card. I mean, I'm not excited. Like, when is the first strike going to be the thing that gets it through rather than the 4 power already being there in the first place in the format we've seen where there's so many, you know, 2 and 1 power high toughness creatures and flyers and, like, I don't know.
Sure, I mean any 3 power 3/4 creature or 3/3 3/2 3/1 is gonna
3 power creatures in here for sure. So yeah, it's
gonna give you some attacks in those spots, but the fact that it's not threat of activation is huge. You know, we like threat of activation because I effectively get the value of a 4/3 first striker without having to spend any additional mana. This does not give you that. And because of that, like, if you are casting this on 4 and then activating it on 5 so that you can get an attack in that you wouldn't have had to do otherwise, that seems actively bad. Like, you're using up 2 mana that you should be using to develop your board further. And so then if you're only activating this later, by that time the board is clogged. Yeah, I don't know. To me, this reads largely like a 4/3 for 4 with just a tiny bit of upside. Nurturing Presence is 1 in a white enchantment aura. Enchant creature. When creature has whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, this creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Not a counter, just a temporary pump. And then when it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. Okay, kind of buried the lead there. That's is this a card? A 1/1 flyer is not quite a card. So if you play this, get a 1/1 flyer, and whatever you play it on gets immediately picked off, you're down value.
And you can't even play it on turn 2 most of the time to get the 1/1 flyer early.
Yeah, I suppose maybe if there are a bunch of white 1-drops or some other color 1-drops where you would consistently do this on 2, it could be interesting. But see, it feels like another bad aura that is a bit of a trap to me. But certainly a 1/1 spirit token with flying is a decent chunk of a card. I just don't think the rest of it fills the missing gap.
Yeah, not a huge fan, especially since it's not like auras are going to be hard to come by in this set.
Right. It seems like if I'm going to play auras, I want them to be on the backside of a disturbed creature. Supernatural Rescue is 3 and a white for an aura. And I was like, what does it enchant? There it is, enchant creature down there. This spell has flash as long as you control a spirit. When you cast this spell, tap up to 2 target creatures you don't control. Enchanted creature gets +1/+2. A little bit of, I mean, there's flexibility there, but you can't really get all the value at once off of this card, right? Like,
I mean, like this is kind of like a panic attack / trumpet blast type of card that you use to finish off the game with your spirits. That's what I see here. This is I'm not super excited about it, but if the aggressive spirits deck is a thing, then this is the kind of card that you probably want a copy of in your deck to finish the game off.
Right.
But,
yeah, that's fair. Aggressive, it does what you want. I guess where I was at was like the you can't have it all thing comment was more about you can't flash this in to eat an attacker and tap down your opponent's attackers that you don't want attacking. You can't get both of those. But certainly end of turn, tap down your 2 blockers, add some power to my thing, and get in there, sure. But boy, that's a lot for falter effect. I mean, it doesn't even freeze them, right? Where's my blue effect if they don't untap or something? But I don't think I'm playing this much. Again, it's the same problem with the other one. I just rather have disturb auras, right?
Yep.
Wedding Invitation. 2 mana artifact. And when it enters, draw a card. So that's it. We were talking about Magic design and how there's a long stretch of Magic history where they realized that a card was worth about 2 mana. And so every card design was simply a card that already existed that had 2 mana more in the cost and had draw a card text added on. I mean, it's like they're all over the place. So anyway, baseline 2 mana draw a card is back. And what else is it? Sacrifice it. Target creature can't be blocked this turn. If it's a vampire, it also gains lifelink until end of turn. All right, can't be blocked is much better than target creature can't block, right? Taking 1 blocker out is way worse than saying none of y'all can block this one thing of mine. And it replaces itself, so maybe this is filler for aggro. Maybe this is how aggro gets through all those beefy bodies. I don't know. But
maybe
seems like not great though. It's not what I want to be doing on turn 2. But I suppose as a curve topper for aggro, you could do a lot worse. But also, if you're super aggro, how many of your individual creatures are going to be so great that you're happy to make this your one attacker this turn? But, you know, Wedding Invitation on well, this is not the one I was thinking of. The thing that 4-drop that flips into a 6/6. Maybe that's the secret or something.
Yeah. It feels like you're more likely to play this in your beefy deck, so you can hit him for 6 at the end of the game and kill him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good Mike. I like Mike's line in this card too, is to go back one step, is actually eat a creature but then tap down their blockers they left back. That would be the ideal case for that. So I don't know about Wedding Invitation. We'll see. I think it's going to be a useful tool to let aggro, or, you know, let big creatures get in the final damage, but I'm not sold on it. What are we taking out of this pack though? What is we got little Naya spread so far.
Yeah.
With a green creature that taps for any color. So no good green here though. No.
Yeah, no, the white's underwhelming. The green is gone. The red, there's at least red cards we would play. If we're playing a red-green aggro / beef deck, we would probably play any of the 3 here. Not excited about most of them, but we'd probably just play them.
I'm kind of on the Scob.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, if I was just picking a card out of the vacuum, again, Scob is probably the best. Let's
take it then.
That's great.
I don't think we have enough. This isn't all powerful enough to be chasing colors at this point.
And honestly, the nice thing is I believe the green creature we have so far is any color. Am I right? It taps for any color.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. This is a good splasher.
For the removal, so it's not even that bad.
Yeah. Archghoul of Thraben, 2 and a black for a 3/2. Born to Die. Whenever it or another zombie you control dies, speaking of Born to Die, look at the top card of your library. If it's a zombie card, you may reveal it and put it into your hand. If you don't put the card into your hand, you may put it into your graveyard. Or another zombie. Okay, so really real zombie build around. You want zombie density. A 3/2 that at worst dies into a surveil is fine, and a 3/2 that some percentage of the time dies into an actual card draw is great. How many? So then the question: how many cards with zombie? If it's a zombie card, I assume that just means creature type. Can some like if there was tribal zombie, would that count too though?
Yep, that's why it's written that way.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, back for the tribal stuff. If you anyway, how many zombie cards before you're actively excited about this? Because I think you just run it in a black deck, right? Because if you had 0 zombies, all right, it dies to surveil 1. It's fine. That's like a common. When are you at like, okay, this is now uncommon power level?
My estimate is going to be somewhere in the high single digits. Like you want to, because that you want to be in a situation where it's going to probably trigger twice, and you have at least a shot at getting a card off of those 2 triggers total. Right? Like, so I feel like if you have 9-10 other zombies in your deck, this starts to become a pretty exciting pick. Or at least if you're early enough in the draft that you think you can get 9 or 10 other zombies.
I think that's about right. Yeah, I was going to say 8 or 9. So I think we're right in the same range. 8 just is a common number I think of when I think about these things, because it's a nice clean 1 and 4 when you think about a 40 card deck, or sorry, 1 and 5. And that just allows me to, you can frame it a little better, but it also goes to show if you have 8, you're talking about a 1 in 5, 20% chance to draw a card. So, and that's where we're saying we're kind of excited about the pick. So just temper your expectations, right? You're actually not going to hit zombies that often because swamps aren't zombies.
Right.
Ragged Recluse, 1 and a black for a 2/1 at the beginning of your end step. If you discarded a card this turn, transform Ragged Recluse. With all the blood tokens, that seems trivial. So like figure you'll be able to flip this almost on command in a black deck. And on the other side, you get a 3/3, and when it attacks, defending player loses and you gain. So it drains on attack 3/3. I like it.
Yeah, this feels like it might actually be a pretty premier curve filler for your black-based semi-aggro decks in this format.
Yeah,
like,
in fact, go ahead.
So the one thing to keep in mind is that it doesn't flip immediately, so you can't flip this on turn 3 and then attack for 3.
Like, I think that's exactly what I was going to say. I think that was that smacks classically of a development tweak. Yes. I would guess that this card started out simply as if you discard a card, transform, because that's cleaner and easier and simpler and more grokkable, fewer words. But they probably decided that made turn 3 too potentially powerful for a common. Like I think at uncommon they probably could have done that, right? Just transform on discard. But because it's a common, they wanted to make sure that it was like turn 4 before you got to attack with your 3/3 drainer, which is a lot more fair than turn 3.
That still feels like it's actually probably a pretty high pick in a black deck that isn't trying to clog things up too much.
I agree, and this is where you run decks like this. You do want to start thinking about your combat tricks and your 1/1. When it dies, it comes back as a 3/2 that would transform into a 4/4, right? So anyway, it's not always easy to attack with a 3/3, but this is a very powerful card. So if I had it, I would be thinking of ways to help a 3/3 attack better. Gluttonous Guest is 2 and a black for a 1/4. When it enters the battlefield, create a blood token, and whenever you sacrifice a blood token, you gain a life. Looks more like another grindy long game type card that's not very spectacular, but if you're doing blood tokens or high toughness, seems fine. So you're gonna
Or
see
Life Gain. This does
or
everything.
Life Gain.
It's,
Yeah. Another. These are the commons where really shows you how R&D has come along in design over the years. They just understand the importance of this kind of design now in a way they didn't when we were there. Even this again, it's the hooks, right? I was talking up front about the number of hooks that are simply in a blood token. Well, this one gets all the blood token hooks because it makes the blood token, but it also gains life, right? So and it also has high toughness. So the 5 hooks that the blood tokens already had get another 2 hooks added to this in life gain and high toughness. So this has 7 synergistic design hooks in 1 stinking 3 mana medium common. This
is modern design and modern limited design in a nutshell. It's a card that you're probably never going to like excitedly pick, but it goes in almost every deck and it does something different for those decks. So you're going to pick it depending on how much you need to fill those slots.
Right.
So it goes to the people who need it rather than being, a second pick. Wow, I'm excited about this card.
Right. But unlike say the examples where I was saying this is for one specific deck and is to get to them 13th, this is more like this goes in 5 archetypes and goes 5th to 8th, right? Exactly. Because it's good in all of those.
Exactly.
Aim for the head, 2 and a black for a sorcery. Choose 1. Exile target zombie. Target opponent exiles 2 cards from their hand. Okay, this is more of your best of 1 modal example, right? If you happen to get a premium piece of removal against zombie decks, nice. If not, well, Mind Rot doesn't suck. It sucks as a top deck, but it's playable. And that probably defines this card as well. Playable, right? But not a priority.
Yeah, I mean, if the format is as grindy as we've been talking, then Mind Rot is not too bad, especially since it's file and so you can't get that value. But
yeah, that's a great point. I was going to say the downside is cards in graveyard can be help an opponent, but that's the exile clause. So yeah, I didn't really process that, but that bumps it up a little notch for me at least. That I'm not giving graveyard deck value town by casting this on them. So yeah, we'll see. And again, some formats, Mind Rot feels unplayable. Sometimes it feels like you're happy to run some. And generally in underpowered decks, I'm willing to run multiples of this type of card. You've seen that in the last 6 months on stream where I've said, look, we're in a black deck. It's not very powerful. We don't like how this draft ended up. I'm actually going to run a couple of Mind Rots because it can accidentally win games with an underwhelming deck. It's like, yeah, my deck is garbage, but I did just strip your final 4 cards across 2 turns, and now my garbage 2/2 is going to win, right? So there is that factor. Have we done this one? Yeah, we've talked about this Scab. We've talked about this Hunter. Here's the Malice that I would like to use with the Recluse. Bring this back. There's a little sneaky little trick. Talked about the Phalanx. All right, we're actually talked about so many cards. We're getting through the commons. Sporeback Wolf, 1 and a green, 2/2. As long as it's your turn, Sporeback Wolf gets +0/+2. Yeah, you read that and think, oh, but I want toughness on defense. But being able to swing your grizzly bear into their grizzly bear and win is definitely something. So, yeah, whatever. It's a little bit of upside for a grizzly bear. And then combatants we have talked about. So what do you like out of this pack?
I mean, I wish we were in black because I like several of the black cards. And yet that's the one color we haven't picked yet.
We still could. I don't care. Also, I mean, this is where it's like we're trying to discuss cards, but like seriously as a pick, is there anything non-black here that even competes? I mean, there's 6 black cards here. We also have to take that as somewhat of a signal.
We do. So let's be honest. I don't actually know how good the collation is on this particular emulator. Like, does it try to collate at all, or could there easily have just been a pack with 6 black cards?
It does do some color balancing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because if we don't pick a black card, the only other card I'm interested in right now is actually the Scab, because I think we can head into green, blue, and splash removal spells, and like this gets back a braid and things like that. Like I'm seeing a deck coming together that's actually not terrible necessarily with the Scab, but other than that, I think I would be fine going into black. I'm just not excited about any. Like the cards that
that's
are
the
black,
trouble, right?
the cards that you would be happy to get 4th and 5th pick if you're already in black, but they're not cards that say you should be in black already.
Yeah, like really, the Recluse is the only thing that jumped. Well, these two are the picks, I think, if we were to take a black card, and then, or would you be on Guest?
I would also be okay with Guest. All 3 of the first 3 black cards are all about equal to me. They put you in different directions, and I think the Recluse is probably the right pick if you're going to pick a black card, because I could totally see having a black-red aggro with the Abrade, black-white aggro with the pacifism, or a black-green aggro. Like, they're all potential directions I could see going.
All right, well, let's say there was a pick clock and it's winding down. What are you taking?
I'm taking the Ska because I like value decks, and it leads me in a fun 5-color value deck type direction, but it's probably not... Yeah, it's
too
not
late.
Clear.
We did it.
Great.
Not clear, but I like that as well. It's fine. Another Recluse, interesting. Change of Fortune. We got a rare. Must be unplayable if it's still here. 3 and a red. Discard your hand, then draw a card for each card you've discarded this turn. Yeah, no thanks. Wow. That is.
That's a standard card if I ever saw one.
John Laux likes that card. I bet he'll find a reason.
Well, we could. I bet Bill Stark likes it. It probably sets up. It probably sets up something stupid.
Yeah, Bill Stark is a better example. Bill Stark is a former colleague of ours who delighted. One of the most passionate drafters and limited players I know, but very passionate for the angular way to approach the format. He was always looking to get you with something oddball, which meant that I beat him about 80% of the time, and 20% of the time he just cackled with frickin' glee.
Always playing Turbo Fog. He'll find a way to play Turbo Fog in any limited format ever.
Yeah. Innocent Traveler, 2 black for a 1/3. At the beginning of your upkeep, any opponent may sacrifice a creature. If no one does, transform. So give something up, or I get a 4 mana, 3/3 flying, and it gets +2/+0 as long as an opponent controls a human. Wow. I'm really not interested unless I'm heavy on the humans, because
no, this is nothing to do with you having humans, I don't think.
No, on this side, opponent. Sorry. Well, see, there you go. So I can't even control it. So then I don't like it that much.
It's a minute. It's an abyss that your opponent can just say, I don't want to be abyssed. I'm going to give you a 3/3 flyer for 4, which I think is totally playable. I think this card is. If you were in black, I think I like it best of all the cards here. But
I mean, I'm playing it in black, yes, but I'm
not going in black for it. Is what I'm saying.
Right. It's heavy black, so there's that. And I just look at how far the 3/3 for flying for 4 has fallen.
Absolutely.
There was a 3/3 flyer for 4 in blue in the last set. It was probably the best common in the worst color, which maybe is why I'm down on them, because of how a 3/3 flyer for 4 was framed by our last set experience. Yep. But it's definitely not what it used to be. But the air is a funny place, right? Sometimes a 3/3 flyer is all you need because your opponent just doesn't have the tools, right? I don't know.
Yeah. Again, like I said, like if I'm already in black here and we're already at pick 6 and I get a chance to get a 3/3 flyer for 4, I think that's fine. I'm not going into black for this at all.
Right. I mean, the ultimate takeaway is treat this like a 3/3 flyer for 4 in black, because that's effectively what it is. But it's even worse because, like, let's say your opponent is spitting out fodder. Like, yeah. It also might just be a 1/3 for 4, in which case it's a disaster. But I guess even picking off their fodder one piece at a time isn't the worst. But still, this is a complicated 3/3 flyer for 4.
Exactly.
Ragged Recluse we just talked about. Chill of the Grave, 2 and a blue for an instant. So this is another cost reduction for tribal, but different. This spell costs 1 less to cast if you control a zombie. Tap target creature. It doesn't untap during its next untap step, and draw a card. Yeah, that 1 point of cost reduction really helps the card. You don't really want to pay 3 for that, but draw a card's vital. I don't know. You like this?
I think if you have enough zombies that you can expect that the cost reduction happens more often than not, I think this card is fine. If you want to jump to the other blue card, speaking of zombies,
puking zombies.
Yep.
Zombies puking zombies. Welcome to Magic. Wretched Throng. 1 and a blue, 2/1. When it dies, you may search your library for a card named Wretched Throng, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Ah.
This is the other exploit fodder I was talking about that I couldn't. And let's be honest, I haven't quite read all the other cards yet, but this is my pick so far. It's a 2-drop. We're in blue. It goes with our exploit cards. It does card advantage over time. I think it's perfectly serviceable, assuming we get a couple more copies, which I think at this stage in the draft.
Yeah, you could take it and plan on that. Yeah, I like that a lot, especially if we do end up exploiting, although we're not leaning in the black direction. Dawnheart Disciple, 2/2 for 2. Whenever another human enters the battlefield under your control, gets +1/+1. Grizzly Bear with upside again. And how many... I mean, I'm running Grizzly Bears for curve filling with no other humans in the deck if I have to. I'm not happy about it, but I will do it. And so in this case, we're just talking about curve filling that gets upsidier as you add humans. I don't know if there's a... this makes me wonder if there's an instant speed human token maker. You know, a raise the alarm type card gets... when you can suddenly make this a permanent 4/4 as a combat trick. That's pretty cool. Oh, no, sorry, it's still end of turn. It's not counters, but still, turning your something like a raise the alarm into a combat trick is cool. But whatever, it's still just Grizzly Bear upside, right? Not really a priority.
I like Wretched Throng if you're going to take a 2-drop with upside.
Yeah, and it's the only thing we've got 2 of the same color in, so let's go ahead and take the Throng. Sanctify, destroy target artifact or enchantment. You gain 3 life, so it's sorcery speed. So naturalize, gain 3, but sorcery speed. Sideboard, unless the enchantment theme becomes the dominant force of the format or something. The aura theme, I doubt it though.
Yeah, I doubt it too.
Bloody Betrayal, 2 and a red, gain control of target creature. Yeah, another. We've seen these set after set after set after set. It's the threaten effect with the set's mechanic on it. And like all threaten effects, you really want to be able to sacrifice stuff to be able to main deck it. The successful use case where you steal their blocker and it both removes a blocker and adds an attacker such that you can win the game on a turn you wouldn't have been able to otherwise is all well and good, but generally not worth the fail cases of the card.
There also aren't a whole sacrificing creature effects in here, so you can't even...
Yeah, I haven't seen any of that yet, right? Not really.
Other than exploiting it, but that's a lot at that point.
Right, and what's the cheapest common exploit creature?
That's a good question.
Because that's generally that's the question I ask myself. What self-sacrifice is it common, and how expensive is it? So how much is the combo?
At common, there is a 2 mana, and at uncommon, there's also a 2 mana, but that one's gold. Yeah. So 5 mana to pull off that is pretty good. So we'll see. Maybe if you get enough of those 2-drop exploits, this is real. But you really want to be doing the combo, not just running this because you can falter here and there. We don't like end of festivities. What's Honored Heirloom? 3 mana, must be a mana rock. Add 1 mana of any color. Indeed. 2, tap, exile target card from a graveyard. Again, that last clause feels tack on. You really need to be needing both the ramp and the fixing before you run this. So I'm not ever running this unless I am 3 color and have, say, 4 plus 5 and greater drops. And even then, that's just on the edge. Lightning Wolf we talked about. Belligerent Guest. This is new for me. 2 and a red for a 3/2 trample. When it deals combat damage to a player, create a blood token. All right. That's pretty solid, actually.
Yeah, seems like serviceable curve filler, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you get it on curve, then you're probably going to get at least 1 blood token, which gives you half the card value back.
Exactly. The problem with the 3/2 for 3 is that it trades off for your 2/2s for 2, right? But in this case, you get a blood token out of that, which is pretty solid. So nice little design. A way to design Magic cards is to ask yourself what you don't like about a class of card and then try to solve for it, right? So you can say, well, what's the problem with 3/2s for 3? they trade down too easily. How can we mitigate that a little bit? Here, we'll do this. Snarling Wolf is a reprint from the last set. I played it here and there in hyper aggressive, which is how the only success I ever found with red-green werewolves is when my curve topped at like 4, and I was playing one of these in that. But I'm not seeing this as an important card. Undying Malice we've talked about. So where are you at here? Looks like red is openish, but maybe not for anything of value. We didn't really like any of these 3 cards. The Belligerent Guest, though, is all right. We have a Braid.
Yeah, I'm okay with Guest. I would also be okay with Wolf to, like, I think we're almost definitely playing either blue. We're playing blue for sure, and like green. We have a green card and a red card that are both very powerful, so I would want a green or a red card. And I think Belligerent Guest is more likely to be playable in the deck we're building currently because we're not very aggressive. So,
agreed. Yeah. So let's do that. Ooh, a rare. Another rare, so it's probably bad. 1/2 for 2 at rare. 2 in a blue. Exile target creature card from your graveyard and put a +1/+1 counter on this. And it has all the activated abilities of all creature cards exiled with it.
Okay, so we could give it a mana ability so far. That's exciting.
Yeah. I'd still play it. Would you run this in most blue decks? I mean, it doesn't get reasonable until you spend 3.
And even at 3, you've now spent 5 mana. And you have to exile your own graveyard. You can't hit your opponent's.
Oh, your own graveyard. Yeah, that just knocked it down. Big smack.
Yeah, I think like right now it feels like at best a 23rd card. I could see if you had a bomb that was based on an activated ability where like having a second shot at that might actually give this card value, maybe, but otherwise I'm not excited at all.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think if we take a blue card, we're on chill. There's Vampire's Vengeance. We could take that. We know there's a couple more. We might even have... Trouble is, it's just so narrow. Like, it's not really a plan unless you know what your opponent is doing. So I still don't love it. What do we got? Red card over here. Pyre Spawn, 4 red for a 6/4. When it dies, deal 3 damage to any target. I'm used to seeing, like, to target player or something on a card like this. Bolting on
either 2 for 1 or you can dome your opponent.
That's a reasonable place to put 6 mana in a red deck, I would say. And we are seeming to be that, but maybe we just want to chill the grave here. We've seen the Guest. I don't know what this is. Let's read this one. 3/3 Menace for 4, Hill Giant Menace, and when it enters, get a blood token, and when it attacks, you can sack it to get +2/+2. That seems very powerful for a common. And the Menace?
Menace is no joke. And you get the upside, 5/5 Menace is just ridiculous, I think. So.
And you get it once for free.
Yep.
And then it's not activate in response to blocks or anything, but
if we were in black, this would be the easy pick.
And it made me. It's such an easy pick. If we were in black, it makes me think we maybe missed the lane on black, but it's all right.
Yeah. I'm not against Vampire's Vengeance, just to be clear. Like, I think, even though we're at the stage where I think we're at the stage where taking a card that can be conditionally really good is not actually that bad.
Okay, let's say this is best of 3, and we take we take the Vengeance.
I wouldn't take it. Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't take it for best of 1. And I think 6 mana cards are going to be easy to come by, and Chill of the Grave is also kind of filler to me. So yeah, I think I take the Vengeance. I think it has the higher ceiling.
All right. Well, we might get more of them, in which case be like the sideboard weenie killers. But I do question. I'm just afraid that what you really want to bring this in is against vampires.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, maybe.
And the trouble is you can't.
It's not great. I'm not loving it, but I feel like the other cards are very replaceable. They have a very, very low replacement cost. And maybe I'm underrating Pyre Spawn, right? Maybe
hey, Astrith, are you around? Do I need to replace you? I'm not seeing... Oh, Astrith's in chat. I want to give you a few seconds, Astrith, then I'm going to remove.
Yeah, I might have been too fast. I think Chill of the Grave would have been reasonable.
Yeah, totally.
I forgot about the cost reduction part. I was thinking of it as just... I had cemented in my mind that it was just a 3 mana cantrip.
Hey, look, we can cast our spells. We want to go red, blue.
Look who came back.
And Wary Prisoner, I mean, again, maybe this plays in something like this where you're just trying to survive early, and because usually blue-red spells is trying to recur value in the late game.
Yeah.
So maybe this is the place for this. But maybe we don't need it over casting spells. I'm going to take the reliable mana.
Yeah.
And I'm going to zoom in on red-blue as our plan.
I do love taking mana at stages like this because you know you're going to play it. It's like a free card.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, check out these slow drafters, Alexis. Jeez. They should be prompt like me.
They probably got used to how slow we were going, and we're like, well, I can, between picks, I can go do a meeting or something.
Why not? Well, look, Reckless Impulse. I think this is good for this deck, right?
Great.
Sorcery. It's an instant sorcery. Yeah, let's take it. I like it. I like how this is shaping up now. And now, I knew this was going to happen. The us talking about a bunch of cards I've really never seen, and winding our way through the very early part of a draft with lots of talk. And it'll pick up now in terms of the draft part because we've talked about so many of the commons. We're not going to stall on them quite as long. And we have our lane carved out, so we're going to just pick according to lane.
I mean, I could see a set of picks that would put us into green blue rather than red blue, because I think if we had if next pack the best pick was the same mana creature that lets us splash a Braid still, and then we could be green blue.
That's true, because we don't think we're not even sold on the Vengeance as a main deck card anyway. Guest is just fine.
I'd put the Vengeance in the sideboard. Yeah.
So okay, good call. So let's keep this in to keep considering it. We'll take Fear of Death. We've talked about we said this is best of 3. We could take Crushing Canopy. I'll still take the Desperation removal if we have to.
Yeah, I would still put either one in the sideboard to start, but
yeah, I have it down there. Wedding Invitation, cantrips, but I don't think that's for us. That's not where we want our non-creature spells. We want instants and sorceries if we're doing the red-blue thing. Probably just combatants then. Although,
I mean, it is non-creature, just to be clear. Oh no, it's instant and sorcery for the Scob. Okay, that's not as great.
Yeah. Some of them, there's some non-creature language in the set, but not on the Scob we have. Maybe though, I don't know if this is the type of deck that combatants is going to be any good in.
I think it's the wolf. I don't like either. I don't think you're playing either.
I think it, but if we expect to have a long game value plan in red blue, I like a generic beefy thing at 4 that can block. And then none of this matters. Change of Fortune. We haven't changed our opinion there. Get out of our deck. Ooh, Mythic at blue. Be good. Cemetery Illuminator. 1 blue for a 2/3 flying. I like it already. Whenever Cemetery Illuminator enters the battlefield or attacks, exile a card from a graveyard. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. Once each turn, you may cast a spell from the top of your library if it shares a card type with a card exiled with Cemetery Illuminator. Well, we've got ourselves a Windrake that turns into a mid-late game value engine, so let's take it. But let's see if there's anything new I need to learn about here. Ballista Wielder. 2 red for a 4/3 and taps 2 and a red to ping, and then on the flip side, still 2 and a red to ping, but it doesn't require tapping, so you can just start machine gunning. Oh, and it has creature dealt damage this way, can't block this turn. That's a pretty appealing package for this deck, even. Like, it feels control-y and long-gamey, but I'm not going to take it over the Illuminator, but I like that card. We got another Braid in this pack, too. Hero's Downfall is an interesting reprint. That was a rare back when it showed up the first time. That was in an era where Wizards and R&D specifically was struggling a bit with how much to put the word Planeswalker on low rarity cards. There was a period during which if you threw the word planeswalker on a removal spell, that automatically made it rare. It's just like
Dreadbore was another one at the time.
Yeah, and now planeswalker is all over low rarity language, and I think correctly. Planeswalkers are the game's superheroes, and you want your commons to say Spider-Man on them, right? You know, go for it. Let players know that there are these cool things called planeswalkers. Anyway, with that change in attitude, it changes the rarity of this card to an uncommon, which I think is fair. It felt rare at the time because of the nature of that planeswalker word, but no longer. Powerful, but and yeah, it's a hell of a card. That's premium removal right there. Geist Light Snare we've talked about. Yep. Desperate Farmer, I don't think we've looked at this yet. Lifelink 2/2 for 3. When another creature you control dies, transform Desperate Farmer into a 4/3 lifelinker. Yeah, solid curve filler. I guess you want to be sure other stuff is dying. You really want a 4/3 lifelink here. Parish Blade Trainee, 1 and a white for a 1/2. I've not seen training before. This is my first training card. Whenever this creature attacks with another creature with greater power, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. So this is like Mentor, but it gives other stuff Mentor instead of other things having Mentor.
Yeah, it's reverse Mentor.
Okay. When it dies, put its counters on target creature you control.
I like that. I want to say really briefly, the put its counters on target creature is new templating that I've never seen before, and it's so clean compared to what they've written on every other card like this.
Yeah, because it's like, what would that's a good point. Come up with somebody find the old templating. I want to compare.
Oh man.
Come up with
they changed or
star pupil. Well, let's look it up. Let's see. That's what I meant. So
and they started doing it with star pupil, actually, just to be clear. It's not a
okay.
Yeah,
I love that.
Put that many count, or put counters equal to it was really clunky before. Anyways,
Wizards R&D has been getting better about chopping words off that aren't needed. Their templating is improved a lot, I think. A braid, though, is probably going to be you know what our choice is going to be. Just look for anything else interesting. Specimen. Oh, let's talk about Specimen, because this is another fodder, right? This is kind of your other key exploit card. Persistent Specimen, a single black for a 1/1, but you can pay 2 and a black to return it from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. We've seen this before as a 1 and a black with the same ability, but the ability costs 1 and a black. I think that's a better card. You want the ability to be cheaper, not the creature. That being said, this is a turn 1 exploit target. So if there's turn 2 mana exploit creatures, you could exploit this. And I think this is going to be another key card for that archetype, right?
Yeah, I think I remember when I was going through the spoiler, reading this card and going, "Wow, this seems like a really, really strong role player." And honestly, like, even if you're not exploiting, like, later in the game, this is chump blocking every turn. It's regenerating. It's it's got other uses. So I obviously not a first pick, but I think every black deck is happy to play this card in this format, I bet.
Yeah. What's the typo? Someone's saying there's a typo in the flavor text.
I don't see it. Hook thingy.
What are you talking about, Hat?
Oh, Stitcher is spelt wrong, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sure enough. Oh, some editor is really... If Matt Tabak is responsible for this set, he's gonna beat himself up for the next 3 years over this.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of at least 2 mistakes that they've got on this set so far, so...
Although it also makes you wonder, like, because famously, R&D does a slideshow when the set is kind of like 48 hours from locked down. you you have a big meeting in which everybody looks at every single card together, and then there's this tiny little window after that meeting where things like this, if they get caught in that meeting, get fixed. And so it's one thing to say the editor didn't get this, but also a room full of R&D didn't see it also. Wolf Strike. Oh, here's the presumable fight bite. What is it? 2 and a green, instant. Target creature you control gets +2/+0 until end of turn if it's night. Then it deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. Okay, well, at least it gets the bite thing going on. So much better than fight, right? Oh, just years better. And then you may get an extra bonus for nighttime. So just classic baseline green common removal. But as such, you like it. It's good for that color. Aim for the head again. Fear of death, we've seen that. Bloody betrayal, we've seen that. We've seen rescue. Cradle of safety is new to me. Flash. Enchant creature you control when Cradle of safety enters the battlefield. Enchant creature gains hexproof and gets +1/+1. We've seen various versions of this, and ideally I start this in the board and bring it in against heavy removal decks, but I think you can do worse than running a card like this. Everybody's got interaction. It's just hard to keep 2 mana up. I would almost rather have this be a single mana flash and the creature gets +0/+1 or something nominal like that, rather than have it cost 2. That being said, let's take our mythic and see the next pick. I also like punch. We call it bite because of rabid bite, but I think there was a punch card early on that had the bite ability, that deals damage equal to power. So Hopeful Initiate is a white rare 1/2 with training. 2 and a white, remove 2/+1/+ counters from among target creature control, destroy target artifact or enchantment.
This is a constructed card.
Yeah, this is a constructed plant, right?
Yeah, I mean, this card is actually probably very solid if you're drafting the aggressive deck, but
I was gonna say, I think that second line of text is certainly a constructed plant, but I do like the training mechanic as I think it through. It's interesting. It's an interesting reversal of Mentor, and I think I might like it a little better in that, I like the student looking for a teacher as opposed to the teacher looking for a student. Somehow that sets up a combo here where these are, if I'm playing a mentor card, sometimes it's not going to have the right power for the situation. Right. But I'm assuming that training is always they're always gonna start small. They're always gonna be ready to do the thing. Whereas Mentor wasn't always ready to do the thing.
Yeah. Mentor suffered because you had things like 4 mana 2-power Mentor, and it's what is this doing? By the time I'm attacking with this, how often am I gonna have a 1-power creature to even Mentor? And the answer is, more than you think, but you were happy to get more than 1 trigger, whereas this feels like you're gonna get easily get 2 to 3 triggers without even having to try that hard. So,
right.
It also makes that red haste creature that gives +2/+0 look a lot more like a good card. It makes more sense in this set now that I'm starting to see training.
Yeah, that's interesting. Maybe that's the whole the Boros plan is around that. We got another braid here, I'm noticing. Runebound Wolf, another grizzly bear with 3 and a red. Tap, deals damage equal to the number of wolves and werewolves you control to target opponent. So this is your reach. It's a word we use in 2 ways in Magic. It's rules meaning in terms of blocking flyers, but reach in terms of finding ways to get your opponent from a low life total to 0 without attacking is basically what reach means. And so this gives you some reach as well in that meaning. And it's a 2-drop. I would take that. Not over a braid. Undead Butler, 1 and a black for a 1/2. Oh yeah, there's another uncommon fodder, right? When it enters the battlefield, mill 3 cards, and when it dies, you may exile it. When you do, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So here's another candidate to exploit. You want to exploit your butlers. This is the class system at its worst here.
Wow.
Hook Hand Mariner, 3 and a blue for a 4/4 Daybound that flips into a 6/4 that can't be blocked by power 2 or less Nightbound. Just some generic green beef. We'll see how good beef is in the format. It's not for us at this point. We're pretty locked in now. Moldgraph, Millipede, 2/2 for 5. Better do something awesome. When it enters the battlefield, mill 3 cards and put a +1/+1 counter on it for each creature card in your graveyard. Oh, okay, so it can be pretty massive. I was waiting for it to say for each creature, milled in this way or something. But if you happen to have 6 creatures in your yard, you're going to get a big beastie. But it's still 5 mana for just ground beef, right?
With no evasion or other abilities
right.
either,
So still not that exciting. Would probably almost just rather have a 5/5 for 5 with no text.
Yeah.
A Braid we know and are probably going to take. Fierce Retribution, Cleave, another Cleave. Destroy target attacking creature for 1 and a white, or for 6 mana, just destroy target creature. Interesting. I don't know that white has ever had a spell you put on the stack that just says destroy target creature.
Very, very close. There's been exile target creature, and this is a color pie shift that has happened in the last, I want to say, 2 years or so, that R&D has made official in the most recent color pie article, saying this is a thing white can do now. It used to be white couldn't kill anything unless it gave you back something like life or a token or something like that.
Or it had to be aggressive. If a creature wasn't messing with you, white couldn't kill it. But as soon as it started messing with you, you could kill it, right?
Exactly. But now it's official that white can just kill a creature straight up as long as you pay like 5 or more mana, basically.
Yeah, expensive but doable. That's fair, I think. You gotta check in on all the color pie dogma, or else you just start doing stuff and you don't have great reasons. Retrieval is the bounce Cleave. We talked about that. Scavenger. We talked about that. Oh, here's the Shock variant. Haven't seen this one yet. And still probably a Braid, but this would be a good one for our deck as well. Flame Blessed Bolt is a single red mana for an instant. Deals 2 damage to target creature or planeswalker. If that creature or planeswalker would die, exile it instead. Exile matters in the format, and no face damage, but generally with shocks, you just want creature-based upsides anyway, so this is fine. And Celebrants. Oh, we haven't seen this yet. Menace 4/4 for 5, and it makes 2 blood tokens. I hope not to play this, but it's not embarrassing. Another Skywarp Scab. A training green. 3 and a green for a 1/1 training. You get a 3/1 green. Okay, that's clever. I see the game here. We've got a trainer that makes its own mentor. It's chosen a pig. Teach me, oh pig.
Oh, that's great. I mean, I like a Braid. I think you were pretty much settled on that as well, but I'm excited to have some of these blue and red cards come back. There's nothing here in green that I want more than the red cards and blue cards. So
yeah, we're taking a Braid though, right? What do you want back the most? The Bolt came back, we'd take it, but it's probably going to be something like the Wolf or the Scob if we're lucky.
I think there's a chance the Scob comes back, and if not, the Unsummoned might make our deck. Maybe.
Yeah, that's true. If we're doing enough on that front.
But the Wolf would be fine too. I'd be fine with a 2-drop that just filled my curve.
Ooh, are we doing enough? I've actually talked about this one on stream already. I did a review of this card. Love this design. Pretty neat. And I don't know if we're doing the thing, because we're trying to be red-blue spells, and this is asking you to exile a creature card.
Yeah.
But it's still a 3/3 for 1 that you're gonna flip and draw, or you're gonna be able to. Oh no, sorry, never. We can't really. Never mind. It's an additional cost to cast. Yeah, I don't think we're the deck for this, right?
Certainly not yet. Yeah, there's no way we're taking this right now.
So I was thinking this was like we could play it on 1 and it didn't do anything for a while, but no, you can't even play it on 1, so never mind. I back off on that. Wanderlight Spirit, 2 and a blue for a 2/3 flying. Can only block creatures with flying. That is a real drawback, especially when they gave the Windrake a little toughness bump. But I think you're still going to be happy to play that. Millipede, we looked at, and Heron of Hope, 2/3 flyer for 4 is underwhelming, but sometimes they've got an ability that gets there. If you would gain life instead, you gain that much +1, and it gains lifelink. Okay, so the now I liked the let's see, what's the last set you drafted? Did you draft Theros Beyond Death?
Oh yeah.
So this had the Theros Beyond Death had the version of this that the activated ability gave it lifelink and vigilance, and I would much rather the vigilance was huge on that creature. So no, I think it's a worse version, Mike, because the THB Pegasus had vigilance, and I would rather have vigilance than an extra point off my life gain.
I mean, it does affect itself, so you're guaranteed to get that 3rd point.
It's true. It's true. I just in my memory of Theros just found the vigilance part of its big selling point. But yeah, I guess in multiples the life could get out of hand as well. My inclination is that I would rather have the vigilance, but maybe we'll see by the end of the format. Or maybe in a dedicated life gain deck, that's because there was a gain 3 triggers. So I guess if you have gain 3 triggers, you're really going to like this over the Pegasus. But I'm on Team Pegasus until proven otherwise. Gluttonous Geist, we've talked about and are not taken here. I've not seen this one, though. Stitched Assistant, a 3/2 for 3. Born to Die. Indeed. Exploit. When Stitched Assistant exploits a creature, scry 1, then draw a card. We don't seem to be in the exploit deck.
Yeah, I don't think we're in the exploit deck, and well, except for the part where if we get more of the Throngs, if we get more of the Wretched Throngs, it starts to become halfway decent. That being said, like this has two floors. Like the floor, you have the floor of 3 mana 3/2, and you have the floor of I can just cycle this. So
yeah, that's true. 3 mana cycle is not great, but it's not. No. It's better than garbage.
Yeah. I would pick the Assistant over the Celebrant. I don't think a 2 mana 2/1 that is an aggressive card is going to be that great for us.
But yeah, you're right. I think I'm just addicted to 2-drops or whatever. But you're right that this, especially with what we've.
Yeah, we're hoping to get more Thongs, but maybe we won't. Maybe we'll wish we had the Celebrant later.
No, I think you're right though. Let's take the Assistant. Aztareth is starting to feel self-conscious. Your picks are great. Don't worry about it. Path of Peril. 1 black for a sorcery. Destroy all creatures with mana value 2 or less, or pay the cleave cost, which is gold, to get a 6 mana Wrath. Well, seems reasonable. I like the dual mode for constructed, but we're not taking it here. Anyway, interesting design. It's kind of a way to make an uncommon or rare. I know Wizards likes to do that. How can we turn that uncommon trope into a rare card? Mischievous Catgeist. 1 and a blue for a 1/1, and when it deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Hello. And it flips to Curiosity. For what's the disturb? 3 mana Curiosity.
I mean, it's the bone, like 2 mana, a 2 mana. What's the card? Ophidian is not the right word.
Right.
But a 2 mana hit and draw card. This is the first one ever. It's always been a loot until now. So this is some pretty new space that they're trying out. And
yeah, I like taking this and trying it.
I'm excited by it, especially since we have like 2 Abrades already, and we might grab a Twitch or a Bounce later. Like,
yeah, this makes Bounce great.
Yeah, getting this through on turn 3 is not going to actually be that hard for our deck on average, I think, if we keep on the path we're going.
Storm Chaser Drake is interesting too. I like that design for tempo aggro, like it's up in the air.
And it can block non-flyers, unlike many times when they make these 2 mana 2/1 flyers that are high flyers.
High flyer, yeah. Yeah, well, let's take the Catgeist. I'm excited about... Oh, it's Ancestral Anger, though. This is a new red spell for me. Target creature gains trample and gets +X/+0, where X is 1 plus the number of cards named Ancestral Anger in your graveyard. Draw a card. This wants you to play a bunch of these, but then your deck gets worse as you add more of these to your deck. I'm not in for this. Although a single red mana to draw a card Again, especially since it doesn't need a oh no, it is target. It needs a target. That's a big deal, right? A lot of your blue 1 mana cantrips just don't need a target, so you can play them literally on turn 1. If you could play this on turn 1, I'd be a little higher on it, but nah. Not if I can't get this chain going by doing this for no value except a card replacement on turn 1 and get these things in the graveyard.
Yeah, I can't wait to play the aggressive red-white deck where my only spells are like 4 of these, but well, and maybe in a braid, but it's probably not necessarily good. It's
right.
just fun.
It sounds fun anyway. We've seen this. We've seen this. We've seen this. Let's take our pick and move on. Let's take the Catgeist. I like trying that.
So it gets both in that.
Alluring Suitor, 2/3 for 3 in red. When you attack with exactly 2 creatures, you transform to Deadly Dancer, a 3/3 trample, and when this creature transforms into this, add red until end of turn. You don't lose mana as steps and phases end, and it has the activated ability red, Deadly Dancer, and another target creature each get +1/+0 until end of turn. I feel like most games you end up attacking with exactly 2 creatures at some point just because.
Yeah.
I want to mention on a design point here, I like that the card has a baked-in way to spend the red.
Mm-hmm.
I saw that. We saw that last set as well. There was a vampire that if it connected for damage, or like if Oppo's taken damage, it adds 3 red as red. So it's like 4 mana, and if they've taken damage, add red. And it's like, that's all well and good if you got something to spend the red on, but it's kind of miserable if you do the thing, but then the mana goes away. And on that card, they put in the 2 in a red to rummage, right? So at the very least, if you didn't have anything in hand to cast for the red, you could rummage something away and not have it be useless. I love that. Yeah. It again goes to that design of what sucks about mechanic blah. And what sucks about the mechanic suddenly get some mana is that you don't have anything for the mana, right? So I like tacking on a rider that makes sure that you don't experience that feel bad if you get that mana. You can do something with it.
It's like the opposite of that that hill giant from Time Spiral block where you'd pay 4 for a 3/3, you'd get 3 red mana off it coming in the battlefield, and you're like, what do I do with it? I got nothing. Oh well.
Yeah, and it's sad. You're just like, aw, I feel like I wasted a card, and now this card, it was just vanilla in the end. And so, yeah, more learnings from R&D as they make these types of designs better. Frenzied, I would play that. I'm not super excited by this, but whatever. Yeah, you're gonna run that. Frenzied Devils, 4 in a red, 3/3 haste. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Well, technically, this is our build around.
I mean,
but we're not really. I mean, we don't have that much yet that we're even doing.
Yeah, and not only that, but like your upside most of the time is you've got a 5 mana 5/5, which is fine, but you did a lot of work to get there, right?
Maybe you just want another Throng.
I was thinking Throng. I was considering Thoughts at first, but I think Throng is probably better for what we're doing so far.
Yeah, let's just take that.
2 mana 2 power creatures, great for the deck, and we have a couple ways to use them.
We've seen all this stuff. Yeah, I wouldn't mind a Thoughts either. This would be good for what we're up to, but I like shoring up, getting Throngs before we don't have any more options.
The second Throng is so much more important than the rest because now you know that your first Throng is getting you card advantage.
Yeah, we actually do something with that. Syncopate is non-creature and slides all over the curve. I kind of like that. Yeah. We got another Stitched Assistant opportunity, another Reckless Impulse opportunity, but Syncopate seems clear to me here.
Yeah, I don't see anything I like better than Syncopate. I always like having at least one counterspell on my deck, so let's get it.
Yes, the whole exploiting Throngs is real and a reason to continue to look for these assistants. We have one. It's kind of like, which synergies are we leaning into here? I want to find some stuff for this Scob. And, this was only, so here's we've only got 4 things that our Scob works with for right now. But also, these thongs are just asking to be exploited. So we definitely want to keep an eye out for exploit as well.
I mean, I do agree with chat that double a braid, we already have enough. Like, we should get more targets, but we have primo targets already.
The zombie the throngs are zombies, so that makes me like the chill over a reckless impulse or this combat trick. So we're going to grab a chill here.
No disagreement. See, we ended up getting that anyways. You probably don't want more than a couple of those unless you're just really aggressive.
Yeah, if we got like 4 wretched throngs, I could see leaning in a little harder.
No, I meant the Chill of the Grave. I don't think you want more than 1 or 2 of those.
Well, that's what I mean. If we had a ton of 2-drop zombies, where then I like it more. But maybe I'm overrating it. Another throng. What's the ideal number of throngs? If we could just if Throng said add as many throngs as you want to your deck, how many do you put in?
Ooh. I mean, I draft differently if that's the situation, obviously. But,
obviously, yeah. But or more abstractly then, in general, what do you think a good number of throngs is in a typical exploit zombie deck? Because, yeah, you don't want to draw 2, but you got to have some.
So I think it's probably like 3.5. Like, I feel like 4 is probably correct, but like there's going to be times where you're like, I wish I had a different card instead of that 4th one.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, I think we're on about the same place there. Well, here's could be our 3rd. We're only in pack 2 though. I kind of like the Storm Chaser Drake.
Yeah, I mean,
what's this?
The problem with the Storm Chaser Drake is we don't have.
This is not good. I'm not taking that.
Storm Chaser Drake is just a 2/1 flyer for us, I think, unless we Curiosity it, which is going to be a really good play when we do that, but.
Mm-hmm. But a 2/1 flyer that's not even a high flyer is perfectly serviceable.
That's fair.
It's actually a solid 2.
This deck is definitely shaping up to be very have a lot of tempo in it. Like,
I take it. I think we can get 1 more throng. We'll be happy about that by the end of the draft, and then we'll be happy to have a good flyer to drop.
All right. Well, look, your little pinger thingy is.
Yeah, pinger thingy came back. Let's take that.
Nice way to finish off the game.
Yeah, we do seem to be in a good lane.
I don't know. I think we've got a nice. We're moving in the direction of having a nice blue-red tempo-y deck with some synergies in it. We're not like all in on any one synergy. We just.
Here's the wheel we were talking about, and we did get the Scob back that we were hoping for, and we were saying the Wolf would be a fine backup. But I think.
I mean, because we got the 2 throngs and the Drake, I don't think the Wolf is good anymore.
Yeah, and the Scob still looks to have some action. We got a weird. We're both a creature and a non-creature spell deck, but if we have a little of both, I think that's fine.
I mean, we only have. Maybe I'm misremembering, but I think we only have 1 card that actually cares about the spell portion of thing. It's
right.
The Scob.
Yeah. Effectively, we don't need to overthink it if we're just trying to make sure that Scob has something to get back.
Yeah. I think the 2 of. I think. I'm not saying we shouldn't take another Braid if it comes back, but like I think we're done aiming for spells explicitly.
Right. Since we're not doing anything that is counting, like nothing is counting the number of spells in our graveyard, for example. That's one of those spots where you really need to be paying attention to your numbers. As it is, this Spirit looks like it'll be fine. I really want it to block, and it's not going to block a lot of the time, but it's a fine curve filler here. Hey, no problem, Rob. I think I can just replace you with a bot, so no worries. You didn't realize the draft was going to go on this long? How long have you been watching my stream, friend? None of these matter. I guess we might take we talked about this. This might play if we do get spell heavier, but I don't think we need it.
Yeah, I mean, either one. I can make an argument for either one, honestly. Like,
I tried to warn you. This I tried to set chat up. This is effectively a way to have a set review, not a way to do a draft. This is a way to do a set review with Alexis.
Sorry, my bad for dragging it out. It's
no worries. Oh yeah, it's all your fault. Let's do that. I'm gonna go with that. Hey, we even got this thing that likes more than 0. We'll see if we play this. This definitely wants a bigger spell count than we have right now.
Yeah, but it also has haste. I could see it in if we get really far along the tempo aggressive angle, then it could be played.
I'm probably not going to review decks after, just because this been a long stream as it is already, and I don't know the format. Like, what am I going to do? I don't have enough strong things to say about decks at this point to make that as useful as I think it would be. But let's take a look at this rare in our colors. Ill-tempered loner, 2 red for a 3/3 human werewolf. When it is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to any target. Woo! Wow. Not just face, any target. 1 in a red, ill-tempered loner gets +2/+0 until end of turn. That's just the daybound side. I'm in for the daybound side. Meanwhile, the night side says it's a 4/4, and it's just the same thing, but it's 4/4.
No, whenever a permanent.
Permanent control. Oh wow.
Yeah, this card's insane. This card is like, its worst case scenario is Flame Tongue Kavu. So like,
wow, this is where you want to start self-damaging and stuff. And wow, this is nutty. Great. We're just gonna slam that. Hey, welcome J2S, Josh, and Raiders. You're catching us. Got my friend Alexis Janson on, and we are doing a mock draft of Crimson Vow. Let me show the deck we have right now for our new viewers. We landed in a blue-red lane. It is not a spells deck. The Repository Scob wants a spell to get. Frenzied Devils wants a bunch of them if you're going to run it, but right now we have that in the board. And really, it's more just long game value. Wretched Thongs getting exploited by assistants and then eaten out of the graveyard by Skywarp Scobs. That's kind of the plan here. And we picked up a nice on-color rare, pack 3, pick 1. We're doing this with chat. We're not going to play these out. This is just as a means to discuss cards more than anything.
You skipped some of the new cards in that last pack. I know you were going to obviously pick the rare, but
oh yeah, we didn't talk about some of the other ones. Oh well, we're also pushing it on time, so that's all right to keep it moving as well. Flame Blessed Bolt jumps out at me. Wolf, of course, curve fills, but I'm expecting that probably is going to be around for us on the wheel. Doesn't feel like many are in red here. So I'm on the clean removal over. Well, Looter is good too. Rummager, Looter. No, it is Rummager. Interesting. Yeah, I see blue and think it's going to be Looter, but it's very specifically discard a creature card even.
Exactly. You couldn't do it as a Looter if it said discard a creature card, which is why it's probably a Rummage.
Yeah, that's a great point, and it's also why I'm not super into that. I want to be able to pitch my lands. I get the joke, in Disturb land, you're going to pitch Disturb creatures and get value, but that's a little too cute over just taking some power here. And anything new that you want to talk about before we move on?
Yeah, don't worry about it. Let's.
All right. Grab the bolt.
Yeah, I do like having a 1-mana spell. That's a great curve.
Another Braid. Probably taking that, but here you have a.
What about
Rolling
Thunder on a stick? Or is it Rolling Thunder? Yeah, Rolling Thunder on a stick.
On a stick. I'm gonna if you give me on a stick, that my chat knows I'm gonna lay into you though. This is not on a stick. It's walking. I know, it's walking.
It's okay. It's walking Rolling Thunder. I'm so sorry for not knowing every term that you use.
Come on. It's not about a term I use. It's about that this isn't an artifact, Alexis. What is an artifact here? There's no...
Look, it's made of sticks.
All right, I'll give you that. You've talked your way out of it. Anyway, let's see how it comes through on what you're saying it is. I've never read this before. red, red, and an X for XX creature. If damage would be dealt to it while it has a +1/+1 counter on it, prevent that damage and remove that many +1/+1 counters from it. When one or more counters is removed in this way, deals that much damage again to any target. So this seems to kind of be a, I don't know, it's like
it's obviously
it's a
not
sub-theme.
really, yeah, it's.
But obviously we're taking that. I mean, I like a braid number 3 even, but this scales with the game and hits any target, so I think we take that.
I mean, it's pretty weak at 3 and 4 mana, but even at 4 mana, you're probably fine.
Yeah, I like what Mike says. 5 mana at 5 mana, it's just a Pitchburn Devils, which we played, and then it gets better from there, right?
Yeah.
So that's fine. But yeah, not insane. That's a real cost. That's not. This is not a cheap XX creature with the double red. Ooh, Lacerate Flesh is new. I'm going to go right to that and see what it says. 4 and this is your clunky red 5-drop removal. 4 damage to target creature. Create a number of blood tokens equal to the amount of excess damage dealt to that creature. Yeah. Mostly I'm trying to take out, like, maybe if I get 2 blood tokens out of this, I'm probably unhappy. There's not many 2 toughness things that I'm happy to kill with my 5 mana removal. That being said, you play what you gotta, and this is a playable. Now what do we got in our colors over here? Lantern Bearer, I haven't seen this one before. Flying 1/1 for 1, disturb. The creature gets +1/+1 and has flying. All right. That seems better if you got a lot of ground beef to raise up. And we don't really. But honestly, turning the, Howlpack Avenger into a 5/5 flyer doesn't seem bad. So what do you like? Lacerate Flesh to add to our removal, or just gets... I think I kind of like still add to removal.
And it's so clunky though. How much removal? We have 3 direct removal spells as well as...
Yeah, I guess we got a couple of pingers and the weird...
Yeah. I really like I'm a terrible player. I love excuses to play Suntail Hawk, and this is Suntail Hawk with upside.
All right.
And
we do have a lot of removal.
Having the ability to 2-spell on command is also going to probably be useful occasionally.
That's true. It's a night-day controlling element. All right, we'll take it. Another Wretched Throng. We could get the 3 that we wanted from that. Fearful Villager. Again, playable but not a priority. What's this? Flame Breather. 1/3 for 2. All right, here's a kind of payoff for the direction we were headed in, but we're not really heavily there. We're just kind of a mixed bag now. I think if we were desperate for 2s or really doing this thing, we would want this, but I'm actually looking at just the Throng over Cradle.
Yeah.
Right?
Take our 3rd Throng for sure here. Yeah, we're getting into the final stretch here. Not a whole lot of new stuff to talk about.
Yeah, but the deck's coming together too. I kind of like. I like this.
Yeah, honestly, the only concern I see is that we're obviously more blue heavy, and then like 3 of our red cards are double red.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, we got that dual land to help a little bit with that.
Yeah, this is a valuable dual land for us for sure.
Our curve's looking pretty decent. We've got all the pieces of the deck that we want, except for I was gonna say except for a really big curve topper, but we have the X creature and the thing that flips into a 4/4 with fire breathing. So honestly,
right.
I don't think we're missing any obvious pieces to this deck.
Chimero, you up? There he is. What's this? 2 and a blue for an 0/4. ETB Scry 2. Okay. When you sacrifice this, return it to the battlefield transformed under its owner's... When you sacrifice it, so you have to sack it.
You have to exploit it, yeah.
So this is an exploit plant for sure. And then what is it? So return transforms, then you get a 4/4, and it can win the game if you're willing to give up your islands. I kind of like this at 2. At 3, I'm not loving it.
Yeah, I was thinking at 2 this would be great. Or if we had like 6 exploit, like if we were gonna exploit consistently, I would probably take this card. But I just don't think this is what we're doing.
Kind of like a Sure Strike. But I think I would maybe actually just rather have another Syncopate or a Spirit. Might try this. I mean, how much exploit do we have? We have just the Scob and right now the Assistant.
Yeah, we only have 2 exploit cards.
Yeah, never mind.
More.
So yeah, no egg for us.
Yeah.
So then it's just Syncopate or Spirit or a combat trick. We can look at our overall numbers here. In our pile, we have 17, or in our main deck, we have 17 creatures currently. So we're pretty thick on creatures. We could justify another Syncopate. I'm going to do that over a High Flyer. If Spirit blocked ground creatures, I think I would take it. But the not blocking clause matters to me a lot when we're somewhat trying to get there in the later game with our, now.
Yeah, if we were a little bit more
stuff.
aggressive, or if like the High Flyer was a 3/1 instead, I might go that direction. Oh, that's a nice 2-drop though.
Yeah. So we've got the Drake number 2 to go along with our Trips Thongs. I think that's probably going to be it. Then we got a really, although it's weird, our curve has split. I think that was my fault because I moved those over as. But I kind of think of Syncopates as 2s, either going to be 2 or 3. So our curve starts to look really good once you move those 1s around a bit. So yeah, let's grab another Drake, and then with 2 Syncopates and a deep suite of 2s, we can really make this a kind of a tempo deck that's looking to get on board with some real threats and protect them. Lantern, where's that other one? The Mischievous Catgeist, another one we could try and protect and everything. Anyway, so I'll take the Drake and another Sure Strike.
Huh.
Own a card in exile. Are we going to do that? What gets exiled?
Well, the Scobs exile something, the top end.
Yeah, right.
And I think that's it from what we've got so far.
Probably don't need this. I like it. I think this is an interesting design. The word 2 is cool, and giving blue a way to close is fine. I just don't know if we need a way to close.
I don't think so. Like I said, we have a couple curve toppers with the red cards.
And then
Binding Dice is definitely interesting.
Yeah, let's check this out. So I want it to fly immediately, and it doesn't. 3/1 on the ground. When it attacks, target creature an opponent controls gets -2/-0 until end of turn. We've seen that. That reminds me of the 2-drop in Guilds of Ravnica. There was a 2/1 for 2 in blue that did that, and it overperformed. Like, it created attacks that you didn't have without it. And then it turns into basically a medium removal spell, though. Doesn't seem that great to me, honestly.
I mean, the thing is, I don't think we're just quite aggressive enough or tempo-y enough for this to be the right pick compared to just getting a curve topper that we may or may not actually play.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see Sure Strike is kind of like the middle ground. Like, Sure Strike will be good. If we do get an aggressive start, Sure Strike helps us hold it / finish the game off.
Yeah, I think I don't think we need this. This doesn't have a real job in our deck that's not already decently filled, and this I don't like. So yeah, I would take this just to have an option.
Yeah.
Cradle, for similar reasons. I don't know if it makes the cut, but
I'm not sure. Are we at a level where we have enough spirits that Geistlight Snare might actually be...
Oh yeah, I've been kind of ignoring this card since we read it early, but we might actually be the deck. We certainly don't have the enchantment component very well, but let's see if this will show me creature types. No, this doesn't show creature types.
Oh, yeah.
So, Spirit.
The Drakes aren't spirits? Oh, never mind. I thought the Drakes were spirits. Yeah, that's
Spirit. Well, we got like 5 early. If the zombie Drakes were Spirit Drakes and made it to 7, although by that point, almost any amount of discount is not going to help this spell. You really want to be casting this early anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, the backsides are enchantments, it's true. But not on all of them. Some of them are just spirits that don't have backsides. These two are. I get it.
Yeah, no, I'm excited now that I know the 2-drops aren't spirits.
I think I just want a Cradle. I think we would run one of those for protecting, especially that rare. Now that we got a real bomb, like I would want to Cradle that.
We got a couple things worth cradling for sure. Honestly, the Catgeist is worth cradling too in the right.
Yeah,
frame.
and making it bigger for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Cradle on Drake is called. Man, how about your opponent sighs and says, "Fine, I have to kill this stupid Storm Chaser Drake." And so, oh, it's you control. Never mind. Reading is fundamental. So it's really just. Is it trying to?
But you still get the card for hitting it with the Cradle, though. That seems great.
Yeah, no, it does. But in my runaway value head, your opponent tries to kill it. You draw a card off that, and then you save it and draw a card off that. But no, yeah. It's not that good.
It's not Magical Christmas Land. It's just normal Halloween Town.
Yeah. So yeah, we're actually at cut points, finding some cuts here. That's the thing, though. I think probably. Oh, are we cutting? Let's put some cut candidates over here.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, the wolf is definitely a cut candidate.
Which one?
The 4-drop.
Oh yeah. In fact, let's just cut it. Our creatures are pretty decent count wise. I don't know where Astrith is here again.
We're at a stage where it basically doesn't matter anyways. Let's try
that. And
bad sideboard card.
And the festivities indeed. That's what we're closing in on. Okay, we talked about this is playable. These are like, we got in the right lane. I mean, all this stuff is playable. What do you want out of it?
You say the right lane, but how many people are like, oh yeah, I'm going to not be in your lane because I don't want to ruin it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, whatever. We can pretend. It's all.
Chill of the Graves actually.
Yeah, let's just take another.
It's the only one out of those three that I think we actually might play.
Yeah, it basically makes me like not want to even consider a Sure Strike or a
Reckless Impulse.
Well, Reckless Impulse is doing something different, but
well, they both give you velocity. Though.
Yeah, we're doing card draw without that, right? We got Scobs and Illuminator. I'm gonna start laying waste to everybody. Remove you. I'll remove you. Blood Servitor. Look at this imprisonment. Oh, how the aura removal has fallen. Is this anything we could play? No, you're never running this. All this is garbage. Well, the enchantment's not garbage, but we're not playing it. Not playing this either. Might some world play a Fearful Villager?
Yeah.
Again, this was the...
Yeah, it's getting cut as soon as you put it in, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah, if we're best of three, maybe I should have been thinking of sideboard potential there or something, but we're not playing that. We're not playing that. Sorry, Scott.
Are we playing both Syncopate's main? Do we feel good about that?
I could put one in the potential cut pile.
Yeah. I mean, I think I like, for example, I like Cradle of Safety over the second Syncopate, for example. I think it's almost strictly better in enough situations that I would probably keep that.
So we're at 26. We can cut that. We need 2 cuts. So we're 2 cuts.
Not too bad.
Yeah.
I could make an argument for the Belligerent Guest just because, I mean, red, that way we can slant our mana really heavily towards blue, and all our red cards are good late game that way.
Yeah, that's true.
Those are all the obvious ones that I feel are...
And we do have a good creature count. And this is kind of, it's doing whatever. I like cutting the Guest as a very average creature.
Yeah.
And
I thought the Syncopate would be my call.
you like Syncopate?
Yeah. I mean, it's a great site. Like, I totally, like, if my opponent's playing lots of, like, bomby type cards that hit the game levels 4 and later, then sure, bring it in. But
all right, well, there you go. Our first deck in the format. I don't like the 12-4. I think we would go 10-6 at least, if not 9-7. This gives us 10 blue, 8 red.
Yeah, I like 9/7. I mean, I could see the argument for 10/6. You've got some velocity, you've got the dual land, you have a 1-drop in blue, so you want to be absolutely certain you're going to be able to play that if you have it.
It's the Illuminator and the 1-drop are the ones that might push you to 10/6.
Yeah.
If this were just a 2 and a blue, though, it wouldn't even be a question for me.
Yeah.
And like I do like. I mean, we do have 3 double red spells. And that we and 4-drops. Like, we would like to cast this on 4.
That's true. Like, maybe not the Ballista Watcher, but the other one you definitely would cast on turn 4 if you have it.
Yeah.
You cast either one on turn 4. They're both fine.
So I think we're on 10-8 because of that. Okay. But I think for a first deck, looks pretty sweet. I'd be fine to run this and see how it went. Right on. Well, okay, so we're going to do 4 more drafts today. That's what you agreed to, right? No, it's not what I agreed to. No, but this went exactly as how I wanted it to, which is that the cards led to some great chats with Alexis. If you all want to, if those who participated in the draft, you want to share your draft results with links in chat so other people can check them out, that's cool. I'm not going to go and break down everybody's individual decks, especially because, again, the point here was not even to say, and here's what resulting draft decks look like in the format. I mean, we were drafting open-faced with each other, all listening to each other. So it's not, there's, it wasn't a pure draft anyway. But True wants the stream to end before you die. Come on, it's not even past, like, this is normal quitting time. I think we did great. So let's move to wrap up, though. I threatened to talk coffee and Waterdeep with Alexis, but I'm just going to have her back on some other time for that stuff. But yeah, if you want to play me, do you play digital Waterdeep at all, Alexis?
It's been a while. I used to play pretty religiously on phone. So
well, I've been back playing that again. If you wanted to relive some Waterdeep glory, I'm playing under GoingOptimal on online Waterdeep these days, which is just an app you can buy from Steam or wherever or the App Store. But yeah, so to quote Marshall Sutcliffe, where can people find you, Alexis?
Yeah, I am at Alexis Janson, exactly as the name is spelled, on Twitter. That's the main place you can find me these days. I don't do a whole lot of content creation right now, but please feel free to drop me a follow if you're a fan of Magic, especially if you're a fan of Magic design. I just drop random Magic design tidbits into Twitter pretty randomly.
Mm-hmm. So. Good follow there. And also, like me, Alexis is in the secondary market on TCG Player. I don't know if there's a way to... Do you have a store name you could share?
Yeah, I mean, I can share my store name. It's the Woo Burger, spelled the way it sounds if you know Magic. You can do a store search on there for that.
Like this?
Like this? It has a space in it, but otherwise it's exactly like you think it is. Yep.
Okay, so the space, gotcha.
Yeah, I appreciate. Or if you're local and you want to sell a collection or something,
no, you're gonna come to me. What was that? Did you say something? I didn't hear that. Oh, well, we'll move on from that.
Totally give Ryan all of your business.
I told you she's my nemesis, right? Yes, exactly.
I had to say it.
No, I encourage you to do so. You can. Alexis is a great source to sell your collection to, as am I. We'll both help you out if you need help in that arena. I don't know how you got into it, Alexis, but like part of it, like both of us are Alexis and I think alike in a lot of ways, and I know that Alexis, when you work in the chocolate factory, there's a certain amount of chocolate that's just dumped on you. You just show up at your desk and there's chocolate. And you come into work in a day and there's a line. You're like, what's this line for? Like, chocolate. This is a chocolate line. And so like you can get all of that. But if you are a min-maxer Spike at Wizards working in the chocolate factory, you can quintuple your chocolate haul pretty easily and completely on the up and up, just because everybody at Wizards is constantly giving stuff away. All you have to do is be there with your hands out and say, yes, I'll take that. But the thing is, then you leave Wizards with an absurd amount of Magic product that you can't possibly use for your own entertainment. And so then you're like, all right, what do I do with this absurd amount of Magic product that I can't use for my own entertainment? I should sell it. And then you get into, well, do I just drop it off at Card Kingdom's door, or do I take some time to do this on my own and get more money out of it? Then you do that, and you're like, hey, here I am doing this on my own. I could just buy cards from other people and do it for them, and then boom, suddenly you're doing secondary market work. So that's how I ended up here. I figure Alexis is probably similar.
It's pretty close to the same thing. I opened a TCG Player store because I'm like, I got to get rid of all this sealed product I have sitting in my closet because it's a huge liability. Like, I don't like having... I'm not even going to say the number, but let's just say it was a ridiculous amount of sealed product sitting in my closet. And then I was like, wait, hold on. Other people leave Wizards and they got to get rid of their cards too. And so I've bought several closets full of sealed product at this point. And at that point, it just kind of keeps going. It just kind of rolls. Yeah,
Alexis and I are basically doing the same thing, which is primarily being a service for former WotC. Like, we just know there's such a specific type of collection. It's like it helps to know. Yeah, anyway, but not that we wouldn't help out anybody sell their cards as well. But yeah, Motor City Mama says, any time for AMAs for Alexis? I've got time. I don't know if Alexis does. She's volunteering her time here, so if she wants to take some AMA, we can. But
yeah, I got lots. So that sounds like the first question right there. I've got lots of time. I'm on vacation. I'm actually on vacation right now. I decided to. This is actually a story because I was working at Google until literally Friday. I quit Google to focus on the card thing because I'm making enough money with the card thing to support myself, and that gives me time to basically refocus and figure out what do I want to do with my life. I'm probably going to get back into game design. So if you have, I was going to mention this, if you know any game companies that are actually have good cultures that are looking for remote developers, I'm totally interested in hearing about those opportunities as well.
There you go.
The long and short of it is I'm on vacation because I decided, for a week or two, I'm just going to do anything. I'm just going to take a break, right? So.
Well, I'm glad we got you here. I'm trying a new layout here. Late stage, we're just talking now. Nobody need to look at cards, so I'll make us bigger. But yeah, if you've got some time, we can see if there's other questions.
Would Dragon's Maze have had more room to breathe as a large set? That's actually a great question because I was on... When Dragon's Maze was first conceived, it was actually, hey, let's go back to Ravnica and let's do a 3-block set, right? Or 3-set block. And I was in charge of proving that a 3-set block could work when you had guilds, and then everything. So I did I did a bunch of test drafts where I took a bunch of old Ravnica cards and a bunch of other cards and made some new cards, and just we did a mock draft very early on before any cards had been designed for the sets. And my takeaway from that was I literally went back to Mark Rosewater and said, can we make the third set in this block a full set? Can we just do 3 full sets? And the response was, no, we don't do that. That's too much.
Yet. We don't do that yet.
Yeah, exactly. One of the biggest frustrations of working at Wizards for me was how many times I asked for a thing, was told you can't do that, and then within the next 5 years, R&D did it.
Right. Oh yeah, the number of you could pluck Mark Rosewater out of time, bring various versions of him to a debate stage, and just have Mark Rosewater debate Magic design standards from throughout history. It's man, so many things have changed that way. I remember Randy Buehler talking about how they could the days of printing 2 1s for 1 at Red were long gone. They're way too overpowered, like that because at the time kind of they were. It's just Magic just shifts around, and where standard is at any given time can be very it just depends on the format you create. 2/1s are good if they're good, they're not if they're not, and now they've become kind of garbage. Although, especially with drawbacks, but the white decks still like them. Let's see. Oh yeah, I've often told the story, Alexis, of my on-site job interview at Wizards, in which Brady Dommermuth was replaced from my panel with Mark Rosewater, who I didn't expect to have on the panel, right? So I was like, suddenly my design idol is now going to be interviewing me, but as a world building replacement, which was easily my weakest topic. And I go in there, and within 15 minutes, Mark Rosewater is starting to fall asleep on me.
Yep.
In my first interview for my dream job at Wizards of the Coast with my design idol, I'm putting him to sleep, Alexis. I'm putting him.
You got to be sitting there thinking, this is either terrible because I just put him to sleep and he's going to basically come out of this interview thinking that I'm the worst hire ever, or it's great because he's going to not remember anything and going to have to assume that you did fine.
Yeah, I was just like, I don't have anything bad to say about Ryan. I don't know. But I was beside myself and thought that I was doomed, thought that I was over, and still it was my first panel. I had 3 more panels to do that day, and I just thought I was already sunk, and instead it ended up coming out okay. And then I learned pretty quickly after that Mark falls asleep in basically every meeting he's in.
Yeah, I had totally forgotten about his narcolepsy, and which may not be what he actually has, but that's how I always thought of it. Yeah, you'd be in a design review meeting where you'd be going over cards in a file, and you'd look over and he'd be like, "Huh? What?"
Yeah, and when you're Mark Rosewater, you get to do that. I'm Mark Rosewater. I'll sleep when I want to. That's what he says, just like that.
Just like when you're Mark Rosewater, you get to claim that literally everything is your fault. You invented everything.
Yeah.
The number of articles I would read where I'd be like, Mark, you didn't create that card. You didn't create that mechanic. You didn't invent that idea. That was me, or that was so and so. And he would just tell the story as if it was his idea every time, and it just. I get why he does that. It's
right.
He owns he's the face of Magic. He writes the article.
He's the brand, right?
Exactly. I get it, but it just makes him into this larger than life character, so that when you finally meet him and get to work with him, you're like, oh, this is a normal human being with flaws, and it's just so night and day.
Yeah, totally. Somebody else asked, why do so many people leave Wizards after 3 to 6 years? First, I'd say people leave jobs after 3 to 6 years. I think Wizards retains people on average much longer than most similar jobs. That being said, there's a lot of reasons people leave. One of them, frankly, from one of my questions to Aaron when I got there was, why do people leave R&D? I want to be here forever. So, and then I left R&D, right? And part of it is, opportunity. You want career growth, and you looking around in R&D, you're like, let's see, main editor, nope, Dell's gonna do that job till she's dead. Let's see, director, oh no, designer. You just look around, you see Aaron Forsyth, you see Eric Lauer, you see Mark Rosewater, you see Del Loggle, and you're like,
Bill Rose,
yeah. You see, or now Ken Troop. It's just like, I'm never going to occupy any of those seats.
I had one shot. I had one shot where I applied for a management position in R&D to be frontline manager for the design team, and they barely let me interview for this position. And it was a position that was just so clearly earmarked for Mark Gottlieb. It was just obvious that they had already knew they were going to hire Mark Gottlieb, and they were just letting me interview because they had to. And then afterwards,
Mark encouraged me to. That was sorry to interrupt, but that happened within the first month of me being on the job, and Mark encouraged me to apply for that job too.
Wow. And I remember afterwards, I had a conversation with Globus, who was the hiring manager for the position. Hey, can I get some feedback on why I didn't get the job, right? And he opened with, I was really surprised that you actually have management experience. And I'm like wow. One, great, way to not be biased at the beginning. And then, because I had a huge amount of management, I'd managed an entire team at Wizards for 5 years by then. And so, and then the second thing was the only feedback they were able to give me that was negative was there was a question I asked and you started answering the question too early, so I hadn't finished giving you the question. And therefore you answered the wrong question. And instead of stopping you to correct you, or understanding that people are nervous and they make mistakes or whatever, that was what killed you.
Yep.
And I'm like, wow, that's like fishing for a reason, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean that's almost it, right. Like it seems like the better, cleaner answer there is you did it. You had a great interview, but Mark's was better.
Yeah, no.
Right? How about that? It's like you would have been a good fit. We think Mark is going to be a great fit.
Yeah, no, and I expected the reason to be like, yeah, we took Gottlieb because he spent more time in R&D, and therefore he's just an obvious choice. And yeah, you were strong, but you didn't have anything that put you over the top. Nice and easy. But yeah, no, it was definitely, that was the one shot I ever really had of getting back into R&D, and after that I was like, yeah, I'm done. I'm ready to move on from the dream of ever having a job in R&D again.
Yeah, and I left R&D because I had an opportunity to go from continuing to slap duct tape on Magic the Gathering Arena, Magic the Gathering Online, and go work on a ground up redo of Digital Magic, which is, I mean, I kind of went to Wizards hoping to do that. So it was like, this is kind of what I came here to do. I should go and do it, And then I ended up working for somebody who, worked. I think we had the there was executive leadership on the Arena team was about as toxic as it gets. The type of person who just doesn't understand anything but crunch and doesn't understand human emotions. And it's like, I don't know that they're working unless they're all miserable. If I can see them hunched over at their desks and miserable, then I know production is happening. So let's make that happen.
Yeah. It was bad. God, I'm almost not sure I want to go back to even experiencing this in my brain again. But yeah, no, I was one of the managers on that team for almost the entire like I was basically the management of most of the dev organization, reporting up into the director, and I was demoted back to an individual contributor because I cared too much about my people. Is really what it boils down to. Like, instead of wanting to crunch them to death and like try to push them as far as I could and do the minimum amount of management work possible beyond that, I was like, I want to actually take time to support my folks and figure out how to help their careers grow. And I'm taking like my duties seriously as a manager to do reviews and stuff. And he's like, nah, you should have just done it, got it over with, and moved back to getting work done.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, that was a rough time for both of us on that front, which is too bad because both of us entered the Arena project with all of that great feeling of, yeah, we're doing it. We're finally doing. And I will say the Wizards has taken a lot of crap over the years, and the engineers specifically. Everybody just loves to assume that all Wizards engineers are terrible because there's a bug in some Magic product. It is so much more than an individual contributor when there's systemic problems at an organizational level that lead to that kind of problem. It's not that one coder is bad. And I was really excited because like Arena represented an actual studio development. Like it was a ground up creation of a real game development studio inside Wizards. But then a monster got put near the helm and made the whole thing untenable for a lot of us.
Well, and it was 3 or 4 people in management who all came from the same studio with the same toxic mindset and knew each other already. So there was no dislodging it. It wasn't like, I would have probably stayed if it had been just one director person, but
it's true.
It wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of bittersweet memories for us in our Wizards days for sure, and how the Arena project went down. had some bad taste in my mouth, but at the same time, I play it every day and I love it, and I'm so glad it exists. And am proud of the work I did on it, and I'm proud of Alexis for the work she did on it, and I'm proud of her for the way she did do right by her squad. Managers be damned. Anyway, do you feel the decisions were validated, correct or not? What decisions were we talking about?
And I just asked the question. I'm not sure how do you define validated if you don't mean correct? Like, to me, validated means correct in hindsight. So
I believe that person is still at Wizards, but as I've heard from others, they are a little bit more sidelined, less hands-on with people, which is good. Like, I don't know what this person is doing exactly for Wizards, but if they're not interacting with employees, that's the more of that, the better.
Yeah.
Did this person get attaboys? Well, like a lot of toxic managers in this spot, they are very duplicitous and very sociopathic and very good at appearing positive, chipper, confident, and rah to the people who need to hear it. So, yeah, frankly, I mean, the thing is also I didn't get to sit on any of this person's performance reviews. I have no idea what this person's bosses and peers were saying about them, but I know that it was not just us. There were many people who had real issues with how this person comported themselves.
It was super classic management style of, if something goes well, take credit for it, including saying, yeah, crunch was hard, but like it got us here, so it's great. And then if anything goes wrong, you just fire people and demote them and lay them off and whatever. And like, I think to me, the turning point wasn't when I got demoted. It was actually before that, when an entire team got laid off for poor work, but the person who was literally, directing all the teams and should have seen that coming, since it took 2 years to get there, didn't get any negative adverse effects from having to lay off an entire team for not getting the work done.
Right. The architect of that result went unscathed. That happens a lot at Wizards too. A lot of cannon fodder and a lot of seemingly impervious upper management. Although even sometimes upper management gets shown the door too. Yeah. That does happen. But it was
famously Randy Buehler for Gleemax.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, he moved all in on that and bet his career at Wizards on it and lost that particular bet. But to an extent, Randy was a visionary on that. He just wasn't at a company that could pull it off.
I think if it had been Steam or some other similar platform, it would have gone fine.
Yeah, it was not a company that could pull off that project. Yeah. Yeah, you know, I turn this. Let's end on an AMA or two of positivity. Ask Alexis about something that's her favorite of something. Yeah. Let's start with Magic card. What's your favorite Magic card?
I was going to say, while you're thinking of the question, I do want to go back really fast. If somebody does reach out to me with development opportunities, this is exactly what I was talking about when I say positive culture. If I go back into game development, I'm only looking at companies that can basically tell me, yes, we actually care about people. We care about their careers. We care about not crunching, things like that. So I am hoping to get back into this stuff just in a more positive light. So
right on.
Favorite Magic card is obviously Wormcoil Engine. It's my only brain to print design, and it's a really cool card.
Love it.
So,
Cube staple.
Cube staple. It's the only card that I actively collect, and I mean I just have one copy of every cool promo copy of it. It's not like
you're not like going for quantity, but I get it. I would want, if I had I have a handful of designs I can call my own, but none of them have warranted special treatment as yours has. So that's really sweet.
Yep. I explicitly remember a story from when Wormcoil Engine was spoiled at PAX one year, and they gave out a giant card of it at one of the parties, as WotC was previously known to do. Mm-hmm. And I ran into the dude who got the giant one at PAX, and in the Magic section, and I was like, "Oh, cool! I made that card." He's like, "Wait, no, that's ridiculous." And my friend was standing there, and he's like, "No, really, she made that card. She designed it." And he's like, "Oh my god, that's so cool!" So I got to sign a big card.
Oh, neat! So, I was gonna say, I'm wondering, because it's it's a personal decision whether that person wanted a signature on it or not. But
absolutely
nice.
I hope he was not disappointed with my giant signature, because giant signatures are actually really hard to do.
Yeah,
properly,
that is really hard. I don't even know how I guess I could do it, but it would be very weird.
Yeah, it's and you can't really practice it either, because it's not like you have a whiteboard just sitting there that you can be like, yeah. Favorite Ryan story from WotC? Honestly, I think we've already talked about all of the memories from WotC that I have off the top of my head. I don't have a whole lot of.
Yeah, we don't have any sweet. We're just good coworkers and always competitive with each other. I always, just loved that Alexis and Chris Kelly. I just had a cadre of folks who were really great players who I would, because Wizards loves to get their employees to play. So there was always, let's talk about non-arena Wizards. R&D certainly wanted the company to be playing.
Exactly. Because I was going to say, like, one of the things I loved was, like you said, Chris Kelly and Ryan. Like, we used to do leagues, and then at some point, playing Magic on your breaks became not a thing.
Frowned upon. Yeah.
It became frowned upon. If you got caught playing Magic during lunch, you were told, like, well, why aren't you working?
Yeah.
So that was great. Favorite board game outside of Lords of Waterdeep? Ooh, favorite board game's a hard one. I'm just gonna say that, like, right now I'm really into a game called Mechs vs. Minions. If you've heard of it, it's from Riot Games, so whatever. Riot's not exactly the greatest place, but it's a cross between. You go ahead and look it up if you want to show a picture of it or something. But it's a cross between Robo Rally and tactical RPG. So you draft cards, you program your mech, and then it does the thing on a map, and then you do it again, but you keep your previous program and you just keep updating it. So your mechs just kind of wander around and bounce into things and slowly get more powerful and kill all the enemies. And it's got really, really good production values, and I just really like how the game develops over the course of several turns, and like decisions you made turns ago kind of affect you, but not so much that you hate it.
Right. What's it called again? Mech Source?
Mechs vs. Minions, I think.
Oh, Mechs vs. Minions.
It's based on the League of Legends IP, but you don't have to know League of Legends at all to play it.
The two new games I would recommend that I've been playing a lot. I don't know how new they are. They're new to me. I think one's pretty new. The Lost Ruins of Arnak. We should get the name right on that one. I've talked about that on the stream a little bit, but it's a worker placement / deck builder, which I like. But the deck builder is a light touch. It's not like you're going through your deck a bazillion times, but you're buying cards for a deck that you're drawing from, and effectively placing workers, gathering resources. It just has a nice mix of stuff and feels fun. It's got a kind of Indiana Jones-ish style theme to it. And then the other one I've only recently started playing that is really scratching kind of my Waterdeep itch really is Dice Hospital, in which you are you've got 3 colors of dice. There's green, yellow, and red. They represent patients, and you get you roll the dice and you make some ambulances. You re-roll all 1s and 6s, so all your patients are 2 through 5. 5 is almost healed. 2 is, if they're at 1 and go to 0, they're dead. If they're at 6 and get healed, they're released from the hospital. And you basically have different rooms, specialist rooms that affect patients in different ways, and then different specialists that affect patients in different ways. So you might have a room that only allows you to heal a 4 or a 5 value patient, and you may have a specialist that says, when I heal a yellow patient, I heal a different yellow patient as well, right? So you would play that patient to the 4 or 5 spot and heal 2 yellows or whatever. And it really is worker placement, but in the flavor is great. Like, all the specialists and the rooms really have great top-down designs, and it's great async, and it's a nice, it's not little micro turns. There's one big meaty turn that you take where you just start deploying all of your dice, right? I've got 7 doctors and 8 rooms and 9 patients. Let's do this thing. And so I love that it's not about, okay, I've made 1 die, now you go and back. It's like, no, I'm going to take 10 minutes here and figure out my dice turn And so it really is a great Waterdeep style worker placement with not with macro turns that really reward async play, which is what I do a lot these days. So,
right, interesting. So it's a competitive game, right? That's
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting because the Mechs versus Minions is a cooperative game, and I actually focus mostly on cooperative games these days because my partner just doesn't like competitive games. We like to do it as a puzzle together and play cooperative type stuff. But the dice thing sounds really interesting. It sounds like an evolution of, to some degree, an evolution of Star Trek 5-Year Mission, which you may or may not have played. It's a bit old.
No, I haven't played that one.
It's similar in the sense that you roll your dice and then and this mechanic has been explored past then, but you roll your dice and you can place some dice some places, some place others. When you place them, they do things. You have powers that affect the dice, and the dice are the resource, they are the workers. And so
I like that too. That the one of my favorite concepts that I ever got out of a GDC talk was the concept of pre-luck and post-luck. Have you familiar with that? It's the notion of if you're going to do dice chucking as your game mechanic, if you're going to put variance in dice mechanics, right, if you have the dice rolling happen as the end thing, people hate it.
Yes.
If you have it be at the beginning, people love it. So basically, if you are rolling dice and then deciding what to do with those dice, it's variance that people can manage, right? They call it, and that's what this speaker called pre-luck. So pre-luck, you do the lucky part, and then you act after and get to manage the results of your luck. Post-luck is like Risk, the game Risk, where it's like, all right, I've got my huge armies, you've got your huge armies. I commit to attacking you. Now, let's see what happens. Roll the dice. And it's so frustrating to get to get bad luck in those spots that it's a frustrating mechanic. And
I hate Risk for that reason exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And so post luck is terrible, but pre luck is great. And almost ever since then, it's partly just getting a concept and then starting to see it everywhere. But basically, nobody uses post luck anymore. All the good games that use dice chucking basically have strong pre-luck elements, so that basically experience your luck and then mitigate it, right? And then people are cool with that.
Yeah, I can think of so many games I've played that have dice pools, but the dice pool is always the first thing you do. So yeah, that makes total sense. I don't like the names. I'm gonna put on my designer pickiness hat, because to me, pre-luck tells me that you do stuff and then you have the luck. But okay.
Yeah, I can see where it maybe could have been named better, but it's a useful. It was an aha moment. A lot of times, a GDC talk will take something you fundamentally in your core understood as a designer, but didn't have any term, and then it's like, you gave me words for that. Yes, that's important. I like that. So anyway, that's a good talk. Async play just means not at the same time. That basically, I'm taking a bunch of turns. I walk away from the computer. I go wash my dishes. Somebody else comes along in those games, takes their turns. I come back, and there are now turns waiting for me. Whereas synchronous play is we're at the same time playing back and forth. And it's a great challenge of modern tabletop gaming design that in-person play demands synchronous experiences to be fun, and async and online play practically demands asynchronous play experiences to be fun.
It makes total sense, because if you're playing in person, you don't want to wait 5 minutes for your opponent to do everything.
Right. You don't want to sit there drumming your fingers waiting for your opponent to do their turn.
Yep.
And so when I say micro turns, there's for example, one of the games I mentioned, the Lost Ruins of Arnak, or whatever it's called, it's really fun, but it's very micro turn heavy. You're doing a lot of tiny things. And what happens, and why that's bad async, is that, all right, I got my strategy. I know what I'm trying to do over the next 12 actions here, and I'm going to take that first of action. Now I'm going to go do the dishes. And then I come back to the game. I've completely forgotten what my plan was. What was I doing? All right, what did Ryan yesterday say our plan was here? And so that's what happens. That's why a lot of micro turns don't make for a great async experience. And you're also just not making meaty progress when you do sit down to take those moves.
It's funny you say that, because Lords of Waterdeep kind of has that problem too. where a lot of times I would come back and be like, okay, well, I've already placed one worker. What was I doing with the second worker again? I've totally forgotten because that was ages ago.
Yeah. Or Waterdeep has the async problem where there's a lot of super micro choices that they still have to stop. It's like, no, you can't complete your turn because your opponent has a choice to make now. It's an obvious one. You could probably make it for him right now, but no, you're gonna have to wait and have any. So yeah. It's the micro turn issue with async,
and yet at the same time you can't cash a move because like you have to wait to see what your opponent does because they might block your space. So you might have to just rethink the whole thing anyway. So it's kind of like the worst of all worlds, but it's a great game otherwise.
Yeah. Yes. The other project that is on my bucket, Alexis and I are going to design a Waterdeep. We're going to overhaul it. We're going to do some. It's going to be like a Waterdeep cube, except for you get to make new buildings and cards for it, new intrigue cards, and trim away the crappy stuff, fix the broken stuff, and make the perfect version of Waterdeep.
Yeah, we'll totally get on that.
We're totally going to, like, right now.
We finish all of our other projects that we have.
We are also both alike in that way. Alexis and I have an idea to execution ratio that leaves us a little bit sad, but what are you going to do?
I mean, that's life.
That is life. All right. I'm going to head out here. I want to let Alexis go. We've taken up a lot of her day. Thank you so much. She just volunteered to do this. I can't pay nobody to show up on this stream, so I'm really happy that Alexis is here hanging out with me. Thank you so much. Anybody else? Let's check for raid captain. I don't know if anybody has someone they would like us to raid today. Let's see.
Thanks for having me on. It's fine. I'll come to you with a favor later on and ask you to host my stream when I get back into that at some point.
There will come a time where you will be asked. Okay, no raid captain. So let's see. Who are we going to raid? Let's find someone. Semilin Amazonian? Autumn Lily? Autumn is never drafting, though. Never raid them because they're never drafting. Yeah. Amy is always drafting. No, but she's playing Legends of Runeterra, so not drafting now. Where is everybody? Nobody wants to be online the day before the new set. Well, how about Corticals? We'll hit Alex up. There we go. Or Metal Mario. We'll send you to Alex. Looks like he's talking cards too. All right. The raid is going. Hang on for that. Alexis, thank you so much. Impromptu asked her to do this at the end of last week. She's like, sure, you caught me at a good time. Nobody's asking me to be in the office. So get some time from Alexis while we have it. Thank you so much. And we'll have you on again. If you ever want to, if you have a Friday off, Alexis, I don't know if you know this, you probably don't, but on Friday I play chat in the chat gauntlet. I draft against chat and then play 7 single games against all the drafters. If they can 7-0 me, they get to decide my next haircut. And if you wanted to show up on Friday and be one of the people looking for my scalp, you could be on team chat any Friday you want. So keep that in mind.
Keep that in mind. Thanks a lot for having me.
All right. Take care, Alexis. Take care, chat. We're going to send you to Alex. See ya.